Jonathan Taylor, there he goes again. 50, 40, down the far sideline. He might do it again. 10, 5, touchdown. I-N-D-Y.
The Eastern Conference Championship has been captured by the Indiana Pacers.
Alex Pillow wins the 109th Indianapolis 500.
This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome into another chilly edition of the Fan Morning Show. I don't know if it's going to get above 20 degrees for the next several days, but either way, we'll get you ready to rock and keep you as warm in the car as we possibly can. James Boyd out again this morning. He's been sick. And, Kevin, I don't know if you guys were able to avoid it in your household, but that thing went through our household twice between the week before Christmas and right after the first of the new year. It just kept going around. I know it put me down and out for about 3 days. My wife was out for about 4 days, got both of my sons, and it came back around and got us again. I don't know what's going on out there, but it's nasty.
Yeah, I think you've heard it in my voice. I'm kind of
How are you doing?
hanging on by
I
a
thought
thread.
maybe you were just tired yesterday. You okay?
Ready for Friday at 10:01.
We got 6 hours of radio to do, my man.
6 hours. Let's do it.
You got
Caleb
it?
Zuber, great to see you, brother.
I am so happy to be back here with you guys. Lots to talk about. You know, football season ends and it doesn't stop. Pacers with a big win last night, man. That was pretty cool.
Wow, that was I'm glad I didn't give up on that one with about 7 minutes to go when they were down 14, because all of a sudden it just turned on a dime, and we were talking about it right before the show started, and Caleb, I know you were watching the game too. When it was 105-99, and they hit those back-to-back threes from, I believe it was Neesmith first and then Huff second, and all of a sudden it's tied, and you're like, okay, they might pull this out, Kevin Bowen. This got really interesting all of a sudden. I woke up a little bit. I was getting ready to go to sleep. I woke up again.
By the way, I know the calendar's turned. Mark Dykton still gets all that PTO.
Mark Dykton has some way gamed the system where he gets what do we have on general? Let's
His
say
last name, Radio 1.
52 times 5 is
Mark
what,
Urban
220?
1 Dykton.
Hey, I think you got
Or
another
210?
week. I already know about another week in March that I will be here. So that's been already signed, sealed, delivered.
So I figure we have at base 210 work days out of the year, right? 52 times, well, I guess more than that, times 5.
You would know more than me, Jeff, I have to say.
My math is off this morning, but it's well over 250, close to 270 days. And then you take off, and I guess I'm struggling because you take off 4th of July. You take off a couple of – Mark Dykton has like 107 PTO days. I don't know how it works. I know he's been here a long time. It shows up in the system. I know we record it in the system. I know I turn it in. I know I sign off on it. I know that my superiors sign off on it. Mark Dykton somehow has gamed the system, Kevin. He's got 107 days of PTO, paid time off.
Well, you're the one that signs off on it, right?
Yeah, but it just keeps popping up. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? Remember in The Office, Milton just kept showing up to work? It just keeps happening. Like there's a glitch in the system somewhere, and I don't know. I've got other things to do, I guess, than to run down whether that glitch is real or not. How are you feeling about it? You starting to get like, where's mine?
Jealous. Yeah, jealous of it. Yeah, definitely. Very jealous.
Kevin raced back from Notre Dame. Obviously, I listened to the show yesterday. It was fun to hear you talk about that. He double overtime stays, and then he's right here ready to go at 7 a.m. But Mark gets so many PTO days.
Right. Do we call him tomorrow morning at 7:02 just to check on him and say we're all worried about him? What do you think,
That's
Kevin?
your guys' call. I ain't getting
What do
in
you
the
think,
middle of
Kevin?
that.
I'm going to guess he's up early, right? With
Probably wakes up, yeah.
3 girls.
Man, are you seriously going to be okay today? Do you need Caleb and I to hold it down?
Like I said, I'm fighting.
I know, man. We may have to have somebody else come in tomorrow if you're not feeling well, because I don't want to get it for the third time. Also, like I'm very concerned about you, but I also, we're sitting 5 feet apart right now. So, anyway, back to the Pacers though. At what point did you think? Was it about the time they tied it up with those back-to-back threes, or when did you think, man, they might pull this off?
Yeah, I mean, when Huff hit the one that you mentioned, I thought that was a hell of a play by Neesmith to tap it back out there. But, then you had several plays there. Honestly, when Vucevic banked in the 3, you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh, boy, is this going to be one of those nights there? But you know what? Credit to Aaron Neesmith. I thought he made some huge plays there. He obviously had the layup where, he kind of kept going. Maybe didn't look like it was smooth sailing. And then I thought he made a great play on Kobe White. White, I thought, got a step on Johnny Furphy there late. and made a big play. But, that's one of the more spirited comebacks of the season. And, we can get into the tank impact because I know there's certainly a section of the audience that probably saw the Vucevic 3 go in and thought, all right, entertaining loss. Here we go. Sign me up for that. But then obviously you got people that still care about
I like winning.
Wins and losses there. So, yeah, I get you like winning, but, if you like winning, AJ DeBanso would probably look pretty good at some point.
Well, they are still 12-36, and it's hard. They're in such a big hole. It's hard for me to imagine that they get completely out of it. Although there are some bad teams in the NBA this year. When you start talking, even in the Eastern Conference, Brooklyn looks like Milwaukee is into the total tank method right now. Here's the other question for Milwaukee guys as we start to look through this: does Giannis ever play for the Bucks again? Trade deadline is coming up. He's out.
Right. I think that's a huge domino here in the next week. Exactly what league-wide. It's almost like, wait, is that the first domino that needs to fall before the trade deadline plays off of that? But, if you look at the standings, right now, I think going into last night, I want to say there were 5 teams with 10 or 11 wins. So, every win for the Pacers, and you do shift. Now, again, I think there's a misconception about, what the odds are. We can get into that. But as far as last night is concerned, I mean, again, excellent there down the stretch in making the comeback. Yeah, I thought Benedict Mathurin had a really nice third quarter to kind of keep you in it there. They changed the starting lineup for the third quarter. And so, when you look at how this team has played, Furphy's getting big minutes late. Jarris Walker, I thought, scoring-wise, had a nice night. Those are some, positives that you point towards, because now we're starting to get into, again, trade deadlines in a week, All-Star breaks coming up here in a few weeks. At some point, probably in March, you're going to have to make a decision on playing some of these guys as many minutes as you're playing them like you did last night.
Caleb, I noticed you're rocking the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers jersey today. We know you're a big Ohio sports fan, and that's where you grew up, and that's fantastic. He was back at Cleveland last night. LeBron got a little teary-eyed. I was looking at some highlights. He got a little teared up last night.
I was actually at a family thing this weekend in Northeast Ohio and was talking to my cousin who we talk Cavs basketball all the time, and I told him I'm pretty I'm convinced that his farewell tour is going to be next year in Cleveland. But there was also part of me last night that thought like the emotions might have been, hey, this might be my last time playing in this building because I might be retiring after this year. So I enjoyed it. I always enjoy when he comes back, brings back a lot of memories. A lot of the beat writers always like to go back and with the old nostalgia of those Cavs teams when LeBron comes back into town. So it's fun to read those things. But, yeah, it was a fun game. Cavs are starting to play better. So, yeah,
well, they need to. What has happened to your Cavs? They were on the verge of being one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference last year. Pacers just ripped their souls out, I think is what happened.
I think
all those close wins just dangling out there in the playoffs, and at the last second, Kevin just snatching them right back away. That had to steal their soul last year, don't you think?
Caleb, I thought that was the emotion on LeBron last night. I don't know if I fully thought he was going to go there. I say that in all seriousness.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at the matter there. I'm probably a little bit more sentimental towards LeBron than maybe most would be in this market.
Mm-hmm.
For me, he's kind of the athlete I grew up with. Mm-hmm. Yes, you could make the case, obviously Jordan and Peyton, but like when you think about, I remember watching St. Vincent St. Mary's games, like on ESPN, and being like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? So that aspect to it of like, wait, is this really it for him? I am kind of curious about that aspect to it, but nonetheless, great comeback for the Pacers last night.
Yep.
And again, I fully understand there are people that are very torn right now on how they view the Pacers in this season, but I think once you see and once you hear, what maybe the old lottery odds look like, you're not as living and dying with every single win. It's not like the NFL.
And you pointed out yesterday, there's not as much difference percentage-wise between the 4th pick and the 5th pick
maybe
as most
it's
people would
7:30.
think.
We can go over it, but yeah, there's not that big of that. But certainly that was needed because, I was flipping back and forth between that and Butler St. John's, and that got ugly quick for the Bulldogs last night in Madison Square Garden.
That one got away in a big hurry. It never came back, but there was basketball for us to watch and be interested in last night, and even for you. Okay, how many Cavs games do you think you get to watch, by the way, over the course of the year?
I did buy League Pass this
Did
year
you?
because I am out of market, so
All
I
right.
try to stay loyal. But yeah, one of the things too, it's kind of funny because even keeping an eye on the Pacer game last night, like I think last year going back to that Cavs Pacers series, I was so blown away by Aaron Nesmith in that series, and because I was like, oh my gosh, like this guy has gotten so much better. And then you see last night comes up with some big plays down the stretch. Like he is, to me, when you think about where he was on the Celtics and what he's done with the Pacers, I think he has always been a player that I really respect. Him and Nemhard really players that I really respect and enjoy watching.
Well, again, last night, when he hits that layup, that is a driving play, which I would say that's probably one of his bigger, weaknesses or question marks as an offense guy. We know he can certainly hit open shots, and obviously defensively he does a ton for you there. So I thought that's what kind of stood out to me about last night of, Siakam, made some plays, but, it was Nemhard late shot clock. It was Nesmith, making a driving play there. Obviously you bring up that Huff three from earlier there. Siakam kind of tips it back out there. So, several winning plays and great theater. I mean, if you were watching that last night or you were in the building, that was a good, entertaining back and forth game, minimal timeouts in the final minute or two. So, pretty exciting basketball.
All right, we're going to get all of it in great depth throughout the day. We'll get back into the Hall of Fame and remind you that there are a couple of Colts and Colts-related players in area, at least one other Cincinnati Bengal that have a chance to make it to the Hall of Fame from that finalist list. We'll remind you about that as well. We'll take some of your comments and phone calls along the way. We get you ready for another big weekend of college basketball, and, of course, the Pacers continue as well. And we don't have football this weekend. I'm still grappling with that, Caleb.
Pro Bowl or no? Okay.
We don't have football this weekend. We'll continue in a moment. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
checked out. Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
Happy Thursday morning, along with the man, Kevin Bowen. I'm Jeff Rickard. Caleb Zuver in for the ever-vacationing Mark Dykton this morning. We appreciate that. We will start with the Indiana Pacers, who rallied from 14 down in the fourth quarter last night to edge their way past the Chicago Bulls, 113-110. Caleb, I'm as disappointed as anything that I don't get to talk about the Bulls in bad fashion with Mark Dykton this morning, although he seems to have just abandoned them completely lately.
Maybe why he took PTO.
Maybe. Pascal Siakam once again leading the way for the Pacers with 20 points. Jarris Walker had 16, but Kevin, really, boy, Nesmith really got it done in the closing minutes for the Pacers last night, both offensively and just some other ways, too.
Yeah, the huge help there on the Kobe White driving attempt there to really win the game. And boy, if the Pacers just played the Bulls every night, they'd be in pretty good shape, right? Three of the 12 wins this year against the Chicago Bulls. 3-0 against them this year.
Jarris Walker, double figures with, as I mentioned, 16 points. He's had 8 of his last 10 games in double figures. The scoring is starting to come along. Other aspects of his game need to develop a little bit, but he's playing better for the Pacers, so you got to love that. Meanwhile, college basketball, Butler Bulldogs, they'd been on a roll, but man, that came to an end last night. They were blitzed at Madison Square Garden by St. John's. Rick Pitino was honored for getting his 900th career victory, and he did it in Xavier the other night against his son, Richard Pitino. So he had a big honor there, and then the Redmen just went on to, I think it was 92-70. They were up by 29 at one point in that game last night. The Bulldogs will try to put it all behind them Saturday when they return to Hinkle Fieldhouse. They will take on Georgetown at that point in time. Also coming up this weekend, college basketball. IU will try and build on that win over Purdue. They will play Saturday on the road at UCLA. Purdue also trying to get back on track. They'll be on the road to play at Maryland. That one will be Sunday afternoon at 1. And not to forget, Kevin Bowen, Notre Dame plays at Syracuse Saturday. That'll be a 6 p.m. game. They are on the ever-popular CW, Caleb. Nothing says quality more than the CW.
I think Kevin and I might be the only people that watch ACC hoops on the CW because there's some Duke games on there sometime.
Yeah.
Sometimes not be watching them. So you and me, Kevin, ACC fanatics over here.
Should we make the trip up? US 31, Tuesday night of the Combine, right?
I'm already thinking
Notre
about
Dame
going.
hosting,
So
I think we should have a show trip up there. What do you guys think?
Well, hey, I'll borrow Greg
All right.
Rakestraw's car. I had to jump the car again this morning, so
You
we might
did?
need rakes.
Did you get the battery situation figured out yesterday?
No.
I'm sorry, man. Here's the other thing, though. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but when Rick Carlisle and Kevin Bowen were talking about maybe going up to see the next Virginia Notre Dame game when that comes around next year, and they were, Kevin was trying to persuade him and everything. I happened to look at my social media feed, and Greg Rakestraw's, hey, wait, what happened? I thought we were boys. What's going on here? Have I been abandoned for the prettier girl here?
I may let the urge pass on that.
that was awesome.
I may let the urge pass. And then later, though, he goes, it's not a no. I don't know if you have that part of the audio, Caleb, but there was, he definitely, he responded in a similar fashion to how Coeds probably would have responded to me back in the day about, me asking them out on a nice date to the Steak and Shake on 17th and Walnut.
Caleb, it was the equivalent of him handing Kevin a fake phone number is what it was last night.
The audio was going to back me up on this, Caleb. If we can get the full answer maybe coming up on the other side.
It's not a no.
It was definitely not a no there. And I would, by the way, I would never do that to Rake. Okay. Rake really tweeted that?
He was talking about, being left at the dance by the prettier girl.
I did not see that tweet at all, but I will make sure that I call him ASAP.
Here we go. I think it's right here.
But I wouldn't say it's a definite no.
Look at that.
Well, there you go. So
look at that.
You guys
not
are
a
besties
definite
now,
no.
right? Are you guys besties now?
The door is open, right?
It is open. It is open.
That's pretty good stuff right there. That you can listen to Rick Carlisle with Kevin and James every week right here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. So we will investigate that a little bit further as the years pass. The urge may pass. We'll see what happens there. So that's what's happening in college basketball. In all the nonsense for Bill Belichick being left off first ballot in the Hall of Fame that was the most talked about topic in all of sports yesterday, do want to remind people that we will find out about some of these Hall of Fame finalists. Reggie Wayne, Adam Vinatieri, and Frank Gore are still 3 of the 15 awaiting their fate, Kevin Bowen. That's more interesting to us.
Yeah, and honestly, Vinatieri's the only one I'm really optimistic about. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, do you have the list of this year's class, Jeff?
I do have it.
I mean, Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald are locks, right?
Yep.
I mean, they are first ballot as first ballot comes. So there's 2, and again, with the rule change here in the last year or so, I think it's difficult to get a third. I thought Vinatieri should have been first ballot last year. And he wasn't.
We talked about him for the last 3-4 years of his career as the GOAT. Nobody was arguing back then. Willie Anderson, Bengals, Drew Brees, Jari Evans of the New Orleans Saints. You talked about Fitzgerald, Frank Gore, Adam Vinatieri, Terrell Suggs, Eli Manning. Do you see there's a leak that he's not going to get in? Where are all these leaks coming from, Kevin? Hall of Fame put out a statement yesterday saying, hey, we find out who these people are. They're out, basically.
Yeah, I assume it's the players informing their people that they haven't gotten in. So again, Brees and Fitzgerald are absolute locks, and getting to that third, you need 40 of the 50 votes, and you could only vote for 3. So when you start to do the math, it's just difficult to get a third if it's not an absolute slam dunk there. So, I was chatting with Derek Schultz yesterday afternoon. Like Reggie Wayne, I think is a deserved Hall of Famer. I have real skepticism he's going to get in anytime soon. This is just the reality of how the process has changed, a little bit of the wide receiver position, all of that.
Yeah, others up for it. Speaking of wide receivers, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, Kevin Williams, the Minnesota Vikings, the defensive tackle, Jason Witten, the tight end for the Cowboys, Darren Woodson, the safety, and, of course, Marshall Yanda, the guard, played for the Ravens for all those years. That's the list of finalists, and we'll find out who's going to get in soon enough here. We can also tell you that another defection from the Live Golf Tour has taken place. Patrick Reed, Kevin, is leaving Live Golf. He will return to the PGA Tour competition as soon as this fall. PGA Tour put out a statement, said as a result of resigning his membership in 2022 prior to violating any PGA Tour regulations, Patrick is eligible to compete on the PGA Tour as a non-member beginning on August 25th, 2026. Similar to anyone reinstated under the returning member program, any former PGA Tour member returning to the tour would be ineligible for participation in the player equity program through 2030. And I won't get into all the details, but like when Brooks Koepka came back, the buyback in and the amount of money he's given up on Live and that he will not be eligible for at the PGA Tour was pretty significant.
Yeah, heart really breaks for the Live Golf Tour. Really sympathetic figure. Got emotional last night thinking about them and their future and how difficult this must be. And boy, as much pain as watching Notre Dame lose in double overtime last night, I felt when I saw that headline. I think it tells you a lot when Brooks Koepka and Patrick Reed are dealing with the penalties that they are dealing with just to leave.
Yeah.
That's quite a statement in my mind.
All right, and more NFL news. Todd Monken is the new head coach for the Cleveland Browns. Doesn't it just feel like another same old for the Cleveland Browns? Like they just never quite get it right.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. When I saw that headline and then I later saw Kyle Denrip tweet out last night that Bud Wright is still coaching at the age of 85, I want the Cleveland Browns to hire Bud Wright. This statement from the article is one of the greatest things I've ever seen. Bud Wright, obviously the all-time winningest coach here in the state of Indiana, 85 years old, 464 wins. He's going to coach Southwood next year. Head coach says it takes him 66 minutes to get from his home in Sheridan to Southwood. And he has a camper that he can take to the nearby Massena Reservoir if he needs to stay there for a night or two. How about that? 85 years old, head football coach of high school.
That is, the kids throw this around, maybe not so much now, but a couple years ago, the phrase, Caleb, he's just built different.
For the love of the game, man.
He is just built different.
That's what it's all about.
In all the right ways.
Brown should have hired Bud Wright.
They probably should. They'd have more success, I think. Getting down to brass tacks at the Australian Open, too. Arina Sabalenka, the number 1 ranked women's player of the world, has advanced to the Australian Open finals. She'll play the winner of Jessica Pegula or Elena Rybakina. The semifinals are set for the men. Same old, Kevin. How about this? The top 4 seeds remain at the Australian Open for the semifinals. Alcaraz, Zverev, Djokovic, and Sinner. But I am here for those 4. I am here for heavyweight championship.
That's what men's tennis is.
Yeah.
Ben Shelton and his Carmel heritage couldn't pull off the upset over Mr. Sinner.
That's a tough ask. He might be the best player in the world right now. I'm not sure if he's number 1 or not, but man, he's good.
I love that you threw in a tennis update because I have been trying to stay up and watch some of it. So,
dear Lord, so I remember I used to do that in college. I'd come home from the bars in the Australian Open, be on at 3 a.m.
It's
I'm
awesome.
Like,
it's awesome.
Let's get some pizza and watch a couple sets of Federer and Nadal
Also,
here.
the Indiana State Sportscasters Association Bob Williams Helping Hand Award. Did you see this, Kevin? Goes out to our buddy Matt Conti of the Colts, Vice President of Communication for the Colts. Matt and the Colts PR staff have been recognized previously as tops in the NFL. He and the other honorees will be recognized at their banquet on April the 12th. So is there a better human being? Honestly, we say this all the time. Matt Conti, that is just a quality guy.
Yeah, I think that was announced last week. I think we mentioned that.
I just came across it in a release this week. So.
Briefly on air. But yes, Matt Conti, terrific human. Shout out to Christian Edwards and Pam Humphrey and Steve Campbell and Hayden Clark and Maggie Evers. The list goes on and on. The tremendous staff over there that help us out. And they deserve some quiet time here in the offseason.
Yeah, I'm
We had
for
Hayden Clark, a new father. Shout out to Hayden Clark and his lovely wife, Claire.
I didn't know that.
PJ Clark. Hopefully everyone's healthy and happy, and we could arrange a marriage between PJ and Nelly. I'd sign up for that tomorrow.
All right. Anything else you want to throw in, Caleb?
Do we still
before we
do
head on?
arranged marriages? Is that a thing?
I think somewhere, other places in the world.
Not here. You know, I don't know.
I could be talked into it. If it keeps me out of the stress of watching one of my daughters have to go through the dating life, I honestly might be a fan
You
of
and
it.
Maddie can choose.
I don't know if
the
Maddie
groom.
has heard this idea out of me, but I'm letting you guys know.
Man, oh man. All right. Anything else you want to throw in, Caleb, before we head to break here?
No, I'm good.
All right. We will have NFL discussions and the Colts and their future and what might lie ahead. Coming up in a moment here as we continue 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin, I was wondering about this one, and then I saw an article in the Indianapolis Star that made me think of you a little bit, too. Dana Benbow wrote an article today about Upland Brewing and Game Day, the Hoosier Game Day Lager. It is on fire. It has been requested by national grocery chains in 35 different states. They want big old displays on the end of aisles. They can't keep enough of it. They're brewing it as fast as they can. Now they're going to have to wait for new stuff to come in. Ever since Curt Cignetti talked about this and mentioned that it's his favorite game day thing, Hoosier Game Day Lager, they can't keep it on the shelves, man.
I am more of a Dragonfly individual from the Upland crew. Matty Bowen likes the Champagne Velvet from Upland. We venture to the 49th and College one quite often. Great spot.
Yeah.
Curt Cignetti, Hoosier Game Day Lager. He mentioned that in the post-game press conference. What are we now? About 9 days removed from it all. He made it clear, un beer, right? That's what Greg Rakestraw said to me the other night. I'm going one drink. If I go a second, I might be napping on you.
Well,
which
man
honestly,
knows his limitations.
I would have been fine. There was a lot of room inside that arena on Monday night or Tuesday night. He easily could have napped if he would like. I don't know if Curt Cignetti had a Hoosier Game Day Lager or two, but did you catch his shot at that school up in West Lafayette?
Oh, it was savage.
Now,
savage.
We haven't had a Cignetti drop the mic in a while. I think in the Cignetti world of lingo, he's really behaved quite well. You know, I was kind of hoping we'd get one of those Saturday at the celebration. I don't know if it was too cold. Haircut looked great, by the way, for Curt Cignetti. Very high and tight there. We didn't really get one, I thought, in Miami, unless I'm missing something there, post-game or, even the day after. But it's Caleb, it's a little hard to maybe decipher. So hopefully the audio will come across well, because Curt Cignetti's like FaceTiming here. This is with Stanford Steve, who we see on College Game Day, of course. And Stanford Steve references the bucket, and Mark Deal wanted to bring the bucket out onto the floor the other night, and Curt Cignetti was like, dude, we won the national title. We don't need to bring the bucket out onto the court here. And then all of a sudden, the score total against Purdue got brought up, and Curt Cignetti had quite the joke.
Yeah, one of the guys that's been here a long time, Mark Deal, he's been here since like 1965, probably. He actually brought the bucket with him, to bring out with it. I said, Mark, we're a little beyond that now. We're just taking a national championship trophy.
124-3, you beat that team 2 years.
What's that?
You beat them 122-3 in 2 years. You beat them. They don't need to see the bucket. Yeah, they know where it belongs.
I wanted to hear you say it again.
What's that, Kevin? What's that you say?
Caleb, maybe just that last part again. It's a little, he asks Stanford Steve to repeat the score against Purdue from the last 2 years.
What's that?
You beat them 122-3 in 2 years. You beat them. They don't need to see the bucket. Yeah, they know where it belongs.
I wanted to hear you say it again.
Just wanted you to hear it. I wanted to hear you say it again. That's all.
It's really funny.
Is savage the right word, Caleb?
No, that is. But I just feel so bad for Purdue fans right now. Like, you got to, if you're a Purdue fan, like, you just got to wait. You got to wait. You got to see it through. It's all going to be worth it, but you are getting dragged right now.
I actually have
you looked outside, man? What do you wait? I mean, geez. I don't know what we're waiting for here.
Kevin, I actually have a Purdue fan, like premier decades-long fan update. Our own beloved Todd Meyer, who I love and respect, and I learn something new about Purdue sports all the time when I talk to him because he's that into it and he's always willing to share stuff. He has gone on strike. He will not watch this Purdue basketball team again.
Yikes.
He thinks that there's something going on behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. He just knows that this team
said more. What's his juice here?
He just thinks something's wrong, but he is
Paul George Hilly from back in the day.
Until further notice, he announced to Scotty J and I yesterday that he is on strike against the basketball team. This is a guy who never misses a second of anything.
Yeah,
Purdue.
Todd, that sounds like a sorry life, brother. I'm not going to lie. I mean, here I am
Man.
consuming 40 minutes of Notre Dame basketball my entire life on a
I said
nightly
you're one to
basis.
talk.
Are we really there with Purdue? Are we that worried?
I don't think this happens to a lot of college basketball teams around the country.
That's what I was trying to tell him. I was trying to talk him off the ledge yesterday, Caleb.
And I understand they're a veteran team. I understand that, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer have been there for a really long time. But this is what college basketball is, man. Every team goes through it in some capacity. And yes, it was a rough week, but they still have a lot of games left where if you beat Illinois, Michigan, when you play them again, like, you got a chance to kind of turn this back around. So it happens.
This from listener Ryan, calls himself a big Purdue fan. Please pass along to Todd Meyer that he's a huge, and I'll let you fill in the blank there.
I think you got to give him some grace. He's still very frustrated.
That's
over
pathetic. There's no grace I'm giving him.
He's
That is
very
absolutely
frustrated,
pathetic.
and he just expects more.
Or what are they, up 5 on Illinois in the final media timeout, up 6 on UCLA? Like, I mean, gee, what are you going to do? Dial up Barry Odom highlights and Ryan Walters highlights from the last couple of years?
I think he's
while
just
you're waiting?
like many diehard Purdue fans. I think he's still going through the stages of grief with Indiana winning a national championship. I think he's still going through that. And then you throw in this losing streak where Purdue is been going in fits and starts and hasn't quite looked like a top 4 team that we all thought they were going to be this year. I think he's in his feels right now, and I get it. And I think he should get a little grace for that. Caleb, am I wrong on that?
I don't think you're wrong.
No, stop it,
no,
Caleb.
listen.
Just because he's the boss doesn't mean you got to, get on the knees for
I'll be
him.
honest. That's exactly why I'm saying this. But, look, man, sports fandom,
You just went right
and
by
college
that.
basketball fandom, again, I think this is just what you go through, and I'm sure he'll be back around once the Big Ten tournament comes around, which I am curious where that's going to shake out and where they're going to be seated in that, and just kind of where they'll be seated in the tournament. They got a lot of quality games left. They got chances.
Yeah, I mean, I would say in all seriousness, like that is the one item right now. Purdue obviously has won Big Ten titles, and they've made runs in the Big Ten tournament here in the Painter era, probably more than any other team. But from a seeding standpoint, I do think that's worth bringing up. Are you on a route that is not conducive to necessarily being within? I mean, they've benefited obviously 2 years ago when you're the 1 seed. You're in Detroit for the first 2 rounds. I think they were here, if I'm not mistaken, for the first 2 rounds in Detroit. I should have said for the Sweet 16, Elite 8. If this recent trend becomes more of a thing in February, then that type of pathway probably not going to happen. You're hopping on a plane, trying to get back to Indy for the Final Four here. So, but yeah, that sounded a little.
He'll bounce back. He'll be ready to go this week.
It sounded like deep in the message boards.
You know he'll be watching the Maryland game as soon as it starts on Saturday. He's just going through.
Well, if they don't win that, then we can have another conversation.
I don't
about
think
this,
Maryland
but
could beat us 3.
Yeah, that's got to be a must.
Well,
win.
if we had J&B, then it's over.
Yeah,
We had J&B and James, and it's over with us 3.
That's right.
Right there.
I like that 5.
Let's talk a little bit of football, Kevin. You and I had discussed it briefly yesterday. ESPN released their list of the top 50 NFL free agents this year. Among them, there were 3 or 4 edge guys within that 50, some of the big names that and then there are other options like, I don't know, would the Raiders actually trade Max Crosby, things of that nature. But if you're the Colts, knowing where they're at with the salary cap and that they'd have to move some things or whatever, do we rely on Chris Ballard to try and go get an edge rusher in the draft, or are we just going to have to bring in somebody who's demonstrated the ability over time in the National Football League that they can get to the quarterback?
Oh, I think it has to be somebody that's already in the league. I mean, you want to talk about the Ballard hit rate with pass rushers, particularly ones after round 1, and I'm not betting on that. I guess I could use my dad's old quote that he would always tell me of, whatever, the blind squirrel finds a nut in the forest every once in a while. So I'm not banking on that. I'd be betting with your money there. So I think again, this gets into the difficulty of the offseason of without a first round pick, a huge amount of that cap space has got to go to your quarterback and your wideout, Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones. How do you maneuver? How do you do some of the other things there? So those would be questions that I would have. But yeah, I'm probably more of a free agent than I am banking on pick 50, walking in here and providing consistent pass rush help from day one.
Well, in that top 50 that he has put out, the number one free agent available of all positions is Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. He will be 31 entering the season. Is there even a mechanism they could clear enough space to go out and get him? And at 31, would you be willing to sign him for 2 or 3 years?
Boy, I don't know.
Because that's part of the question, too. What about
age and injury history are starting to add up there. Obviously, the Anarumo connection is well documented, and we saw Anarumo have quite the affinity for bringing in his own guys last year, guys he had history with. But I get that maybe I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, and maybe I'm being picky with that one, but I'd probably look at some other names. It just was it a hip last year for him?
They have been mounting up. She didn't talk about his injury in the little thing there, but yeah, hip sounds right. I can't remember
something
exactly.
along those lines. I mean, you're dealing with the neck with DeForest Buckner. It's a lot when you get to those guys and the ages of those players. But again, I realize that you can only be so picky here. So I'll keep on coming back to starting defensive end opposite Latu. I think you have to do something at linebacker of substance. And to be fair to Ballard, he is drafted extraordinarily well at linebacker. So, maybe that's a position you say, all right, can you find more of an instant impact second or third round pick there via the draft, commit more to whatever cap space you were able to create, commit more of that to guys in free agency. But you do have, your most free agents are at defensive end. Kwity Paye, Samson Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis. I mean, those are 3 of your top 4 defensive ends from last season. So just naturally, there could be some walking out the door, new guys walking in the door there.
Jalen Phillips is going to be 27 years old, coming from the Philadelphia Eagles. Anything you'd like there?
Yeah, that's probably a little bit more. And I get Phillips has definitely had some injuries, so I don't want to ignore that. If I remember correctly, I think he gave Philly a little bit of a jolt there at the trade deadline. He was definitely a rumored candidate at the trade deadline, but you have to do something there. And this gets into the Super Bowl conversation of to me, if you want to have a real gripe about where the Colts are versus these Super Bowl teams, a lot of people brought up the quarterbacks. Well, New England hit on Drake May as a number 3 overall pick. That's just a hat tip. Obviously the Colts did not hit on their top 5 pick at quarterback. I mean, were there that many people standing on the table for Sam Darnold? No. I think hindsight can get really, really 20/20 with that.
Yeah.
It's more of the defenses in Seattle and in New England that you look at them and you look at the Colts, and that would be the frustrating element to me, considering how much the Colts have drafted, how much the Colts have paid, how many coordinators they've tried. And, Ballard, again, has been the one constant here throughout those 9 years. That, to me, is more of the legitimate question that you would have as a Colts fan looking at these Super Bowl teams, more so than, we should have drafted Drake May. Well, that's much more easier said than done. Or, we should have bet on Sam Darnold. Well, again, there's a lot of skepticism off that. I think the defense is where you have a very fair gripe.
Yeah, and another guy that's going to be really sought after, too. We saw him have a big playoff game. Odafe Owa from the Chargers. He's only going to be 27. He had 7.5 sacks and 27 pressures this year, but in that wild card loss to the Patriots, he was all over Drake May in that game.
Well, and he was big for the Chargers, and he got traded there from Baltimore, back during the offseason. So, those two, Jeff, would probably more fall into that boat there for me. Particularly, I expect Buckner to play, but again, with his age and now the back and the neck, and he's such a freaking alien when you look at him and his pedigree and his durability, and now it's like, oh boy, is Father Time saying, hey, even you, I can get to. Not every day are you flying down to Panama for stem cell on your neck.
Yeah.
I was going to jump in here too, just sticking with the Super Bowl conversation. I don't know if you guys have touched on this week, so I apologize if I'm repeating something, but I think the most interesting thing to me about this matchup as it relates to the Colts is this is the 2 ways I think to build a team in the NFL. Either get the coach and the young quarterback on a rookie contract with Vrabel and May, or I feel like the Seahawks model is kind of what the Colts have been trudging through for the last 8 years, which try to have a good team around the quarterback and bring somebody in. Maybe not reclamation project is the word, because I think Darnold did have a good year last year with the Vikings, but just bring someone in to elevate everybody else. And I think that's the most interesting part about this matchup to me. Because you look at Allen, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, the quarterbacks that are getting paid a bunch of money, and they haven't made a Super Bowl. And I think getting a quarterback on a manageable deal, which brings the Colts into the equation this offseason with Daniel Jones and kind of what they did last year as well, I think that's the most interesting part of it to me when it relates to the team in this city.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of work to be done on that defense this offseason, and some of the other things that need to be addressed as well. And mostly you just got to get your quarterback healthy and keep him healthy. That seems to be the biggest thing. But then again, I look back, people forget the last couple of games that Daniel Jones did play, and maybe the leg had something to do with it before the Achilles. But it wasn't like he was lighting it up those last couple of games.
You may have started something here with this IU Purdue nature. Jay, Grace, question mark, for the fan base that constantly chants IU sucks. The only thing they'll get is more IU living rent-free in their heads and a Sweet 16 loss.
Man.
Now, if Purdue fans want to counter, I don't know if it's great ammo, but what do you got? 2 NCAA tournament wins for IU in the last 9 years, and one of those was in Dayton, Ohio as a play-in game. Not much right now.
I think Kurt Signetti is the guy that lit the fuse.
I think we're pouring gasoline on the fire in here too.
Whatever that pathetic nature of Todd Meyer not watching Purdue game. I mean, what in the world? What
No, I was giving Todd a little bit of grief.
What is he going to do? Watch Glenn Robinson highlights?
He's good. Todd's good.
All of a sudden, Breeze to Morales on repeat on the YouTube.
More? Like what?
I just know Purdue fans in general, they're going through it. I know several of them, and they're having a time right now. But
Jeff's here to scratch your back.
I still think that team has plenty of juice. They'll figure it out. It's a talented team. If anybody can figure it out, Matt Painter is going to figure it out.
Can't give up after just 3 losses.
I'm coming from right there.
Can't do it.
No. But as far as getting back to the Colts, though, you know that they're already starting to put plans together and formulating what the kinds of things they want to do with free agency, and they'll have a much better view of that probably after the first part of March. But how different do you expect that defense to look on the defensive line and at linebacker?
Yeah, well, I think that's a big question, Jeff, because I just don't know how many resources they have to make household changes. Ballard would have to do some stuff differently. He'd have to part ways with some guys he's already re-signed in previous cycles. And again, that's not on his track record. Is it now? Like last offseason, he did some things differently. Does he view this offseason as necessary in that light? So again, when you don't have a first round pick, and it's not just you don't have a first round pick, they've operated in off seasons without a first round pick. Oftentimes, though, that first round pick has just been a trade back. So they've gotten other, picks, particularly second rounders, that they've been able to spend. This first round pick went for Sauce Gardner. So again, they don't have this is not 2018 where they traded back from 3 to 6 with Quentin Nelson and got more picks, or the Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor second round draft in 2020. This is different. So how do you operate without that? I don't, if I said to you over under 3.5 new starters defensively, where would you go?
Over.
How?
That's what I say. That to me, that's the challenge. But if you just run it back and you have 8 or 9 guys back, what have you really done? Unless you add a true impact guy.
Again, 3 new starters: defensive end, linebacker, and Nick Cross walks, and you have a new safety. Is that
if they're going to read? Here's the question. We've talked about this before. If they do spend money and go to that defensive line or edge to do money, does that mean that they don't have enough to get Nick Cross back? And they start over and draft somebody? That's the other question. I just know that if they come back with pretty much the same defense and they don't truly add an impact player and 2 really solid guys, like Matt C. is chimed in on the text line, said Colts second-round pick needs to be the backbone middle linebacker of the defense. In his opinion, the linebacking core was embarrassing this year.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Obviously, Ballard, again, has had great history drafting linebackers. So let's play that out. Let's say you draft, whatever, your second-round pick as a linebacker starts from day one. Okay, do you have room in free agency then to draft or to sign, I should say, more than 2 defensive starters? I don't see that. And if you're going to sit here and say, well, your third round pick can come in and start. Well, your fourth round pick can come in and start. Jeff, name the second best rookie the Colts had this season.
That would have been a guy that got hurt very early on. After Tyler Warren, there wasn't a lot happening, was there? Who was it? Who am I missing?
Caleb Zuber, how many games did you play for the Colts this year?
0.
How many sacks did JT Tuimoloau have as a second round pick?
I'm going to guess 0.
Yeah.
And that's a dude that produced at a high level
Yeah.
for the best college football program in Ohio State. And so that's what I'm getting at. It's like banking on all these rookies and draft picks to come in here. And yeah, you bring up Justin Wally, you were hoping that obviously Wally, doesn't tear his ACL, but, still is just banking on these rookies. If I literally said who the second best rookie for the Colts was last year, you could make a case it was Riley Leonard.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say is like, I think that's the only answer because otherwise it's who? Jalen Travis?
Right. Jalen Travis would be the only other one that I would even ponder. So again, that's where Ballard Dowd played that a few weeks back of like, how do you operate in an offseason without a first round pick? He pointed to like past history. We've had pretty good off seasons without it. We can maybe get more into that here in the coming days and weeks. I would push back on that. I think it's a very mixed bag. And honestly, I think that's a compliment to call it a mixed bag. But that's what makes this offseason, I think, different than last year. I think last year I felt pretty confident they would spend on outside free agents and do things differently. And they did that. This offseason, I'm a little unsure on exactly how they'll retool the defense. They say they want to, and I agree they need to. But again, the how of it, I think, is what makes this offseason an unknown.
All right, coming up in a moment, the Pacers get a big come-from-behind win last night at the Fieldhouse. We'll talk a little bit more about that and continue always talking about the NFL and the Colts as we roll on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Caleb Zuber announcing his presence in the 8 o'clock hour in the place of Mark Dykton today. Mark I know it's shocking, Kevin. Mark has a PTO day this morning, taking care of the girls over there. So we wish him all the best and hope to see him again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Caleb?
Well, I would say this about Mark. I know we're making a lot of jokes about his PTO, but, I mean, the guy worked Saturday night doing IST. He did the pairing show on Sunday. This is all through the snowstorm.
Dear Lord, Caleb.
Listen, I'm just giving people the benefit of the doubt
He did
here,
work
Kevin.
hard. He always works hard.
And so, he's earned.
Are you guys going to go buy him a happy hour at Red Garter while you're at it?
Yeah.
Is that place still open? Is Red Garter still open?
I don't know what that is, but it sounds awesome.
I think you can probably surmise what it is.
Yeah.
Have you ever? I don't know. I've not been inside. It's been decades since I've been in an establishment like the Red Garter.
Oh, well,
Pre-marriage.
Maybe we need to change that.
Pre-marriage.
Certainly this gloomy weather will make you warm things up quick in that establishment.
That's Maddie Online, too, for you right there. But it's the Fan Morning Show. We've been talking about the Indiana Pacers this morning. They get a big come-from-behind win last night at the Fieldhouse. Down 14 midway through the fourth quarter, and they start to turn it around. And for a minute, it looked like the rally might get shut down because Vucevic hits that bank-in three from up top, and then the Pacers just kept coming back, and they were hitting free throws down the stretch. Can't go big enough on that baseline reverse layup last night by Neesmith, who hit some big shots down the stretch. Hit a big three, too.
There's been a lot of games this season where the Pacers got in the clutch and the opponent has made all the plays. I thought last night, outside of the Vucevic bank, which was very sloppy, I would venture to say the Pacers made 90% of the plays. Yes, you bring up the Neesmith drive there. I thought Siakam had a sneaky big play, tipping that ball out that got swung around for the J. Huff three to tie it. Nembhard had kind of that little fading shot. I think it was just outside of the lane. That possession was going nowhere. And as much as we talk about Neesmith's layup, I mean, how about the defense he had in helping out when Kobe White was driving there? I think that would have potentially been the Bulls game winner, had White made that shot there. And, he kind of had a step on Furphy. And, it's just vintage Neesmith. Just such a smart, heady player there. If I could nitpick, I don't love the night for Jarris Walker outside of scoring. And I don't want to fall into this trap with Walker. People are going to see 16 points in 22 minutes and say, what are you moaning about? Look at the rest of the box score. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. 22 minutes out of a 6'8", 220-pound
That is hard to do.
wing.
How do you not fall into a rebounder?
I mean, that's some Mark Titus Trillion stuff there that you're talking about. So, again, I think Walker and Rick Carlisle, we had him on yesterday, was very glowing in his recent praise. And, again, scoring the basketball, there were some nice moments from Jarris last night. But, again, to truly be a guy that I think is an important core piece for you, you're going to have to do some of that other stuff there. I thought Mathurin rebounded the ball very well, and his scoring burst there in the third. I don't think it was a great night for Mathurin, but I thought that third quarter was huge. He had that bench up going. He had Tyrese Halliburton chirping. That was a really big third quarter. Rick actually changed two of the starters. He started Mathurin and Huff there in the third quarter. So, yeah, very nice win. Coming back down 14, all of it there. So, Pacers 4-game homestand now. They'll actually have 2 days off. They'll have a rematch with Atlanta coming up Saturday night inside of Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
And that was Mathurin's second game back from injury, so he's starting to pick it up a little bit too. The one other concern, though, is big guys, quality big guys, still vexing this team. Obviously, Nikola Vucevic had 25 points and 9 rebounds last night. And for a minute, up until the Pacers really got on that comeback in the middle of the fourth quarter, it looked like he was going to be the guy that was the difference maker in the game last night, Kevin.
I think Vucevic is cloned. I swear he's been on the Bulls for 10 years. I don't even remember him on the Magic. And I swear he's going to be on the Bulls for another 10 years.
Probably, which means you get to see him 4 times a year.
Are the Bulls the 10 seed in the play-in game every year?
Them versus the Heat every year in that play-in.
The Bulls always lose.
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
That's the Bulls right now. Now, again, let's get into this here. Jeff, pull up those standings for me while you're at it.
I'll go back down and look at it here.
Going into last night, I believe we had 5 teams, the 5 worst teams in the league, either had 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah, here's what we have after last night's games. In the Eastern Conference, the 13th team is Brooklyn at 12-33. Pacers are 12-36. Washington is 11-34. You go to the Western Conference, Sacramento is 12-36. New Orleans is 12-37. And don't give up on the race to the bottom for the Utah Jazz, who are 15-33.
So there you go. You have Washington with the worst record, 11 wins. And then you have 4 teams right now with 12 wins. So, I mean, that is a very jumbled. And then you mentioned Utah with 15. There is a 6th worst record. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 worst teams in the league are separated by 1 win. Now, they haven't all played the same amount of games, so the losses are a little different. But that's a very jumbled mess. Now, if this was the NFL and it was that close, I think you'd be in freakout mode a little bit. I mean, the difference between the 1st pick and the 5th pick in the NFL is gargantuan.
First pick, a lot of times you can get the game-changing quarterback.
Imagine if you needed a quarterback right now and you had the 5th pick. You'd be like, oh, jeez.
And the Colts were in that position a few years ago.
Well, the world, sure.
4th,
sure,
right?
Yes, exactly.
You're not sold on Carson Beck at number 5?
Boy, not if I'm trying to win. But again, when you get into the odds, and I know we're going to get a little nerdy here, but bear with us because this is how the NBA works. They don't go off of the true reverse order from your record. We get into lottery balls. We get into the ping pong balls, the number combination. The odds for the worst 3 teams are all the same for the number 1 pick. 14%, 14%, 14%. I don't care if you finish with the worst record, the 2nd worst record, or the 3rd worst record. You all have the same odds. If you have the 4th worst record, it's 12.5%. And if you go to the 5th worst record, it's 10.5%. So, I mean, think about that. You have a 14% to 10% differential from 1 to 5. That's not that different. Obviously, it's a little different. But, it's nowhere near the difference in the NFL. I believe maintaining a top 4 pick would differ by about 10% from the worst record to the 5th worst record. So, again, I apologize for throwing a lot of numbers and math at you, but it's not awful if you are in the boat of I'd like to see the Pacers win these games. Now, again, some people saw the Vucevic 3 go in last night and said, good, entertaining loss. But then others said, screw that. I didn't come out to Gainbridge Fieldhouse in the worst weather we've had in years and root for a loss. So if you're in that boat, I don't think it's the end of the world. Now, I don't know if you want to see your team win 8 of 10 all of a sudden or something along those lines, but I feel like every couple of weeks we just probably have to remind people of what the standings look like, what the odds look like, and I mean, look at Dallas last year. What were their odds before they got Cooper Flag?
I was literally just about to say, Kevin, 1.8. They were in the play-in. If they had beat Sacramento, I believe it was, I think they were going to be in the no, they would have had to win another game. But they were 2 games away from making the playoffs. Had a 1.8% chance of getting the 1st pick and got it. And then you go back 2 years, Kevin. The Hawks, it was a bad draft, but they had a 3% chance and got it. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that you're going to get the 1st pick if you have one of those 3 worst records. But I think you're guaranteed to be pretty high.
Right. And guaranteed's a dangerous word, but yes, I hear you out on that. And again, the Pacers are 11.5 games out of the play-in right now. So for those that are, thinking that that's still a possibility or something along those lines, I don't necessarily go down that path. So, I feel like, again, every couple of weeks we just got to update on some things there.
Yeah. When I'm looking at the top of the standings, coming into the year, we thought it was just going to be a given that Oklahoma City is going to roll and get on this run and be a dominant team for the next 5-6 years, that it's always going to be around there. Maybe if the Pacers get healthy, they could start to challenge them. Wemby and San Antonio, they're right on, they're right there too. But when you start talking about teams that you think can actually realistically win an NBA championship this year, guys, does the list really go? For me, I just don't see the Knicks being able to pull it out. Maybe if they get women or if they get Giannis, who knows? But are there even 4 teams you say to yourself that team could get on a roll and win an NBA championship this year?
I think it's a huge drop from Oklahoma City. Now, granted, what did Denver do last year? Denver took them to 7.
Yeah.
And when you have a player that's that special in Senior Jokic, then you certainly have a chance. And the Giannis domino now throws everything up into the air. I mean, what will happen a week from Thursday? And how much does that impact the Pacers? Well, we'll have Scott Agnes join us here in a little bit. Should the Pacers drum up a trade package for Giannis? Or is that idiotic?
What would that even look like, though? I mean, what are you going to have to give up
Probably
within the division?
Salesforce Tower.
Like, I can imagine the phone call. You're right. The phone call probably goes something like, hey,
Georgia
just
Street
kicking the tires
Antetokounmpo
here.
Boulevard.
Would you guys be interested in trading Giannis? And if you're the Bucks, you say, well, I don't know, you're willing to give up Tyrese Halliburton?
Does John Halliburton step in and say, no, I don't want Giannis playing with my son?
I feel like we haven't seen much of John. I feel like Tyrese's family's still pretty much courtside. I feel like we haven't seen much John this year. Maybe he's saving himself, for the playoffs.
Tyrese
here.
had the hat on backward last night. Notice that?
He's always animated off that bench there. Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think obviously the Pacers would drum up some sort of trade here. But where does Giannis go? That's the trade.
New York still seems to be the odds-on favorite.
We don't get a player of this magnitude move. Obviously, last year we saw it with Luka. But I think maybe even before the Pacers do anything trade deadline-wise, you're going to want to see exactly where Giannis goes and the trickle-down effect off that. Because wherever Giannis ends up, you have to think there's probably, 3 or 4 moves just that happen off of that. I mean, that usually happens when you see the big player get moved.
And to your point, Kevin, usually when you have these high salary players getting traded, a third team or sometimes even a fourth team has to come in to help facilitate the trade. And the Pacers, maybe they don't get Giannis, but maybe they're involved in a multiple team trade.
Yeah, that is a good point. And one thing to talk a little Pacers here for just a second, in terms of this year and what you're hoping for this year. We're now about 50 games into the Pacers season. And the center position is just, what in the world? No one has emerged at center. If we were grasping, we'd say Micah Potter right now. Grasping. Could Jay Huff be your third? I don't know, maybe. But last night, they didn't even start a center. And they've gone small ball more. You would think against Vucevic, you would start a center. And they didn't even start one last night. So I think that is a disappointing element to the season of you were hoping, hey, we'll see about Isaiah Jackson. Hey, we'll see about whatever, Wiseman or Tony Bradley or, Huff, of course. And Huff would probably be the one that you would go with and say, maybe could he be a part of your rotation moving forward? But even that, I don't think is an absolute slam dunk, which I guess if I was talking about Jay Huff, I'd say a reverse dunk.
Yeah. Aaron texted us in and said, man, could you imagine the Wolves getting the Greek Freak? But what would they? Here's the thing, though. Whoever gets him, they're going to have to give up not just draft capital, but probably a really high-quality player.
You're right, but I also feel like in a lot of these, you never get equal value.
Ever.
It's so hard.
Ever.
I think, honestly, the only teams that can actually pull off equal value in terms of draft picks and young players are Oklahoma City and San Antonio.
Matt says Siakam, Mathurin, and a first-rounder for Giannis. Would you do that?
You'd have Giannis and Tyrese Halliburton for a while. That's hard because you've fallen in love with Siakam. And he's been since they acquired him, he's been their leading scorer, is he not?
Now, your first-round pick, you theoretically would still be pretty high. I don't think Giannis walks in here and all of a sudden totally changes the season, losing Siakam and losing Mathurin, if we really want to play out this hypothetical here. Let's call it a top 10 pick. So you're basically trading a top 10 pick, Siakam, and Mathurin for Giannis. And again, I think there are a lot of Pacers out there right now in 465 that are like, did I just hit an icy spot? No chance. I think
just discussion, guys. Just discussion.
There's a little bit of disdain with Giannis because
of the
I don't want to call him Brady with the Colts, but he's it's not LeBron with the Heat either, but he's kind of been the villain.
Yeah.
Against your team here, whether it's intra-division, obviously the amount of games played, but if Giannis played for the Trailblazers and you didn't have any of this, whatever.
I will say this: outside of the playoff victories over the Bucks the last 2 seasons, it's hard to think of a more satisfying end to a game than that falling out of bounds 3 that Tyrese buried the Bucks with in the regular season.
The rivalry's over. I mean, it's probably over last year when the Pacers beat the Bucks in the playoffs, but it's done if Giannis is out of here. What a run it was. I had fun watching it, but it's over.
And I guess Miles Turner got what? He got one dance with the pretty girl?
Yeah.
He walked out there. Finally, the pretty girl called him out. and said, okay, I'd like to dance with you, but it's just one dance. That's it. I guess he got his money, which by all means, but his whole competitive quote, not sure if that's going to be. I'll be curious if Turner is moved at all. I don't know. Tony East could probably fact check me on that. I assume you can be moved even after what happened over the offseason, but NBA rules can get really messy in my brain really quickly there. But man, that's the domino. I think we start there before anywhere else here. Trade deadline coming up.
And we bring it up because Shams reported this week that he is, quote, ready for a new home, unquote. That's Shams.
That's so weird.
Shams Sharon.
I feel like that those words haven't been used for stuff like this before, which makes – and that it started last summer when Giannis first, it was rumored he was looking to seek a trade. It's just – that whole thing's weird, but I think it's actually going to happen.
What would the poll be on that?
Bringing Giannis here?
You got access to our fan Twitter account, Caleb?
I do.
Throw that poll out there. Siakam, Matherin, throw in first names for us out there. Go 2026 first rounder, so the juicy of the first rounder, for Giannis. Yes? No? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a 60-40 no.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I think fans don't like Giannis. Which I don't, I mean, like.
Here's the other thing. How much are you also willing to trade? And knowing that first year that Tyrese comes back, probably the first half of the first year, he's probably still going to be finding himself a little bit. Giannis is going to be 32 next year. He still looks pretty fit. I think he's still got several good years left. Don't get me wrong, especially in today's NBA. But he is over 30. Just throwing that out there.
Sure. And we've seen some injuries pop up. Again, you want to talk about alien. You want to talk about absolute freak of nature here. So. Yeah.
He's already can you believe already his 12th season, Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. And honestly, when he came out, nobody knew what kind of player he would become. And he's one of the best stories, I think, of this era of the NBA, just coming from Greece, and nobody knew what he could do. And, man, he's pretty dominant, and I think he wants to win a championship. So somebody could be making a big, big splash and kind of turn this season up on its head.
Milwaukee is 18-27. They've lost 7 of their last 10, and I don't think they're going to turn things around while he's on the shelf. Did you see he self-diagnosed correctly too, Kevin? Did you see that? When he first got hurt and they were talking to him after the game, he said, yeah, I did this in my calf. I felt something pop. It's probably going to be – they're going to go in and do an MRI. They're going to tell me I'm going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. And people are like, man, you're just – what are you talking about? You're not a doctor. Turns out after they examined him with an MRI, 4 to 6 weeks, something popped in his calf. How crazy is that?
Sounds like COVID all over again. Self-diagnosed myself.
How'd that work out?
Well,
you're here.
You've heard me the last hour of today. I feel like you're very worried about my health, which I appreciate. Right now, you're worried about Purdue basketball fans or Purdue fans in general. And my health.
I'm just worried about people. I'm just trying to keep everybody upright and moving forward today.
I really appreciate it, Jeff. It's
all I'm trying to do.
We all need someone like that in our lives.
What do you say we check it down right now, man? Let people know what's going on.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
I respect your ability to fight through it, Kevin Bowen. More than you know. Appreciate it. Pacers rallied from 14 down. They get past the Chicago Bulls 113-110 last night. Pascal Siakam led the way with 20 points, some big plays in the fourth quarter. Jarris Walker added 16 points, but you were not impressed with his overall game last night, Kevin.
Well, I just would like a little bit more in the other stuff. When I get right now he's being asked to do different things, but, play 22 minutes and have a bunch of zeros across the board. That's some of the stuff that I think you want. When Halliburton does get back, you're not going to need Jarris Walker to be, a 20-point guy for you or something along those lines. So, maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit here, but not the most important item from last night by any means, but just something to keep an eye on.
Well, I'll tell you what, Aaron Nesmith was terrific down the stretch. He was making threes. He was driving baseline. He's making passes. He's making plays defensively. I mean, he put it together in those final 2.5, 3 minutes.
Yeah, big drive there. on the baseline. That's probably a question mark in his game in general. And then great help side on the Kobe White drive. They're late to ice it. So, the Pacers made plays down the stretch. Nemhard had a huge bucket. Siakam had that, tip pass out or the tip rebound out. They got swung around to the J Huff 3. That was a huge, huge play. So, really nice end game moments for the Pacers. Sometimes you see the team make the big run, get back in it, and then, I have vibes of DeMar DeRozan on New Year's Eve against the Pacers. So that did not happen last night.
Saturday against the Hawks. The next time you will be able to see them over at the Fieldhouse. That one will start at 7 p.m. Our airtime 6:30 here with Pat Boyle, and then Pat Boylan, and then Mark Boyle will have the play-by-play along with Eddie beginning at 7 o'clock. And then we've got college basketball. Last night was not a good night for the Butler Bulldogs. They'd been on a roll. They'd been doing some things, but then they go on the road. They play 25th ranked St. John's at Madison Square Garden, and they got blown out from beginning to end, 92-70. Rick Pitino, the coach for St. John's, honored for getting his 900th win the other night against his son Richard Pitino at Xavier. But Butler not worried about that. They'll try to put this behind them. They return to Hinkle on Saturday when they will take on Georgetown, try to get back on the winning track. I think they got a good shot in that game.
I was sweating watching Butler try to operate the first 5 minutes last night. It was suffocating from St. John's. Now, the end of the game was 6 turnovers. You'd have told Thad Matta last night, you're going to have 6 turnovers in the game. He'd say, hell yeah. Yet they still lose by 22. So Evan Haywood was, kind of kept him in it early on there, but St. John's hit a flurry of threes right before half, and that one was over. So as we've talked about with Butler, the Big East doesn't have a ton of opportunities. They are outside of the bubble right now, but kind of right in that whatever, first 5-10 out. They're going to have to beat UConn again in the second game, or at Nova, or win a game or two in Madison Square Garden in the Big East tournament. Like, that is a must. And then you got to hold serve the others. Mm-hmm. You bring up Saturday at noon. That's one of those you got to hold serve.
I think I looked last night. I think St. John's only a game behind UConn in the Big East standings right now.
I was reminded last night, they were preseason ranked top, 5? Mm-hmm. And they've won like 8 in a row. So maybe they're starting to get their act together.
All right. We've got IU trying to build on their win over Purdue. They will play Saturday at UCLA, and Purdue will try and rebound at Maryland Sunday at 1. You can watch that one on CBS. Notre Dame will play Saturday at Syracuse, 6 p.m. on the CW. They were this close to getting that big win over Virginia, Kevin. This close.
Appreciate you bringing it up.
Well, you were there. You had a great time. Yeah, you and Rake had a great time until the very, very end, right?
I made a video of me and Rake from the trip. Did you see that?
I have not seen that video. Caleb, have you seen that video?
I did see that video. It was special editing skills by Kevin there. It was a good recap. I liked it.
Nice. We've got the Hall of Fame controversy, of course, with Bill Belichick reportedly not getting in on the first ballot. However, there are still some Colts to keep an eye on this weekend. Reggie Wayne, Adam Vinatieri, and former Colt Frank Gore. Is Frank Gore like one of the most highly respected players amongst players ever in the history of the NFL?
Yeah, I love me. I hope Max Bowen has some Frank Gore in him.
No, that's terrific.
I think he could still get 2.5 yards a carry right now in the league. 2.5 yards a carry.
I know, it's funny. I feel like he could, rush for 81 yards on 18 carries tomorrow. By the way, I'm getting word that Rosie Bowen might have heard the Red Garter segment.
Rosie Bowen did?
It was a little confused on why her mother was being brought up there. So maybe I should root more for the 2-hour delays, so my kids aren't necessarily hearing.
Well, hello, Rosie. We hope you have a terrific day.
Some of these guys. I love you, Rosie. I love you, Max.
There you go. Other NFL news.
I'll explain it later.
Todd Monken is now the head coach for the Cleveland Browns. And there's your head coaches that have been hired in this cycle now. John Harbaugh's gone to the Giants. Kevin Stefanski, the former Browns coach, goes to Atlanta. Jeff Hafley to Miami. Robert Saleh in Tennessee. Jesse Mentor to Baltimore. Mike McCarthy to Pittsburgh. Joe Brady, promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach at Buffalo. And now Todd Monken to Cleveland. That means Las Vegas and Arizona are still looking for head coaches. Las Vegas has the number 1 overall pick, presumptively Fernando Mendoza. Vegas and Arizona still can't land a coach at this point in time, Kevin.
Are they waiting for Super Bowl people?
Maybe.
Clint Kubiak, is that the name? The OC there in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Jim Bob Cooter, ESPN reported yesterday, in-person interview for the OC job. there in Philly. He's got some history with Nick Sirianni. So we'll see if Jim Bob Cooter leaves the Colts to go call plays. That would be the appeal there, as he is the offensive coordinator, of course, here in Indy. I don't think by any means the end of the world, but we really haven't had I feel like you haven't had any offensive staff turnover in the Steichen era. Pretty unusual, really, for any NFL team to go 3 years, potentially a fourth year without one side of the ball having any sort of staff turnover. So I think that will be something to keep an eye on here, as it looks like the Eagles are moving forward with some of those OC interviews.
I saw Nathan Baird in the Star this morning reporting that Purdue Athletics is operating at a surplus despite spending more. Purdue's athletic revenues rose to $150.5 million in 24-25. A lot of that had to do with Big Ten media rights. The athletic department expenses did increase by 14%, but that outpaced revenue growth. But still, they're on the right side of things at Purdue there.
So now you're trying to go on the positive
I'm just reading
side
headlines from today, just trying to throw
Purdue
something
fans.
else in there. I'm trying to get everybody back from the brink over there. That's all.
Shout out to Bud frickin' Wright. Could not believe this when Colin Dennerip had the story yesterday of at 85 years old, that man is going to coach high school football for another season. Southwood. I feel like I've passed that. Is that by Honeywell Golf Course up there in Wabash? I feel like I've seen it up there on those county roads. So, yeah, he's making the drive 60-some miles from Sheridan to Southwood to coach high school football at the age of 85. 464 all-time wins for Larry Bud Wright. I believe that's his real name.
More to come.
How about that? What are you going to be doing at 85?
Hopefully I'm still here. That's my first thought right there.
That's fair. By the way, speaking of 85, I saw Digger the other night. He looked great.
I was asking about him. Does he still
good.
carry highlighters around?
He looked good. I didn't look in his pockets or anything to see if the highlighters
No, I didn't know if he was like
there,
you had him on the outside of the pocket there on the shirt or whatever. So.
He looked good.
All right, that's what's happening in the world of sports. We've got some Pacers basketball to talk about.
Can I laugh just at one quote that I saw in the Denrip article?
Yeah.
It was Bud Wright had the quote of, "I just had that itch." How many 85-year-olds could relate to that?
I can't speak for them.
Anything, Caleb?
I got 60 years before I can answer that question.
Anything? I feel like Mark Dyken would have some sounder ready to go off of that. I needed a little bit of backup there. I just can't be on an island by myself.
We did leave you out to dry there.
I don't know what do you say? How do you speak for an 85-year-old?
Feels like I'm asking Rick Carlisle if he wants to go to the Notre Dame Virginia game next year.
Well, I'm not saying no. We're going to check the Fieldhouse Files and Scott Agnes next. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin Bone, will you read that little weather screen for me real quick? What does that say? Does that seem right?
-2. Am I reading that right?
-2 degrees outside right now. That's just wrong. That just feels wrong, doesn't it? My goodness, stay warm today, whatever you're doing, although it did seem like the streets are drying out a little bit, but you never know. The ice is everywhere, so keep that in mind. As always, you know what to do. You've driven in this before. In the meantime, nice win for the Indiana Pacers last night at the Fieldhouse. They came from 14 behind in the fourth quarter to knock off the Chicago Bulls, a team they seem to do well against this year. And here to tell us more about that and tell us what lies ahead over the next 2-3 weeks for the Indiana Pacers, man who covers them every night on the Fieldhouse Files, our good friend Scott Agnes joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. I hope it's warm in your apartment because, man, I feel bad for anybody who may lose power or anything like that or has to walk outside. And, Scott, I just want you to be safe and warm. That's my job today, is keeping everybody safe and warm and happy. I'm trying to uplift Purdue fans, keep you guys warm, keep everybody in the sunshine today. You okay with that?
I do. I am. I appreciate it, but I agree. These temperatures are absurd. I can't remember a run like this in my lifetime here in Central Indiana at all. So,
man, how about the run for the Pacers last night with about 7 minutes to go? Did we see that coming?
Not particularly, given this group, right? Like all the different things that they have been through and such. But, well, I mean, when you do factor it, look, last year, this is what their seasons were made of. Like they just had some kind of spirit and fight every single game that they were able to make a run out of it. And that's what made the end of their season so magical. But to me, it was just so many different guys playing their role that stood out to me. No one more than anyone, jumped out or stood out, I would say. But, Matherin got them started in that third quarter. And then they hunkered down there in the fourth and made something of it with that big 18-4 run to close in a game they really never really led until the very end.
Yeah, didn't lead until the final minute there after a brief lead in the first quarter. Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files, where you can find his excellent work, Pacers and Fever coverage from Scott. Okay, let's talk about the news of the day yesterday in the NBA and Giannis and potentially a trade. We are now 7 days away, a week from today, from the NBA trade deadline. Do you think league-wide will kind of be in a frozen state, I guess, whether, insert your pun here, until the Giannis domino falls or doesn't fall?
I think to some extent, those that are big game punting, that does make sense. But those like the Pacers that need to go get a center or things like that, I don't know how much of a direct impact that could necessarily have. But, yeah, absolutely. If you're one of those main teams and you're interested in trying to play in that game with Giannis, that's going to have some kind of impact. But I don't think it's a given that he's going to be traded by this trade deadline. Certainly all indications are that that relationship is getting towards the end. But if I'm Milwaukee there, I'm sitting back and weighing my options, and maybe it'd be better to get to the summer when you have more know-how of exactly what picks would look like and those sort of things. So John Horst has his hands full there in Milwaukee.
Scott, I know you like hypothetical trades as much as the weather outside, so
right.
Bear with me here a week before the trade deadline. But we had a listener bring up earlier in the show a potential trade of Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mathurin, the 2026 first-round pick of the Pacers, for Giannis. If you presented that trade to the Pacers, what do you think their response would be?
I think it would be very difficult for them to part with Pascal, given what he's done. But I think you do that 100 times out of 100, given how little that is, in my opinion. I think you're going to see teams move a lot of assets to go and get Giannis, a one-of-a-kind type of player. So if it was just that, I think you would jump at it.
Even at the age of 32?
I mean, look, LeBron's playing at 41. Like, if you can get 5 good years at Giannis, which is no reason to think that, I mean, Pascal himself is like 31 right now, by the way. And they have I would have no urgency or interest in trading Pascal, but when it's just those in this hypothetical trade, yeah, you're 100% doing that.
We're doing hypotheticals, but here's the other part of it too. Let's say that the Pacers had pretty much everything that the Bucks wanted. Are they trading Giannis to the Indiana Pacers within the division?
Yeah, I can't imagine it. Like traditionally, you'd say no. Like you would send Milwaukee. Milwaukee would want to move on from Giannis and send him out west, right? So you see him just once a year in Milwaukee and certain things like that. But I think it's going to come down to the trade package. And also, here's the other underlying thing in all this: when you're a superstar at this talent, you have some say, and so all signals from Giannis seem to be pointed towards New York. Now, will they come through and keep him in conference and such? We'll see. But, yeah, you're right. You're totally right, Jeff. Generally, no, you send him out to a different conference, in fact, so you see him less.
A man that has basked in the glory of the IU athletic run here. He is Scott Agnes. He's with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Okay, Scott, one more on the trade front for me. Benedict Mather and Jarris Walker are seemingly the two names we've discussed the most. Mather more than Walker, certainly. Is there anyone else on this roster we haven't discussed that you're curious about a week from today? Again, from a contract expiring standpoint, I don't think there's anybody that jumps off the page, but I don't know if the center position's really done much here 50 games into the season. TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin, people have debated those contracts. But anyone else non-Mather and non-Walker division?
Yeah, right now, not really. It all obviously there would be an impact if they did go out and do something at that center spot, because then you would need an additional one. Although Tony Bradley's second 10-day contract is now finalized, and fans should know you can't sign a third 10-day contract with the same team in a season. So they would have to sign him to a more of a standard type deal if they choose to bring him back here. But no, there's no obvious names or anything like that. I think it would be all a matter if they're able to upgrade a position and what level of assets it would take. But I don't see McConnell going anywhere. I do not see Toppin going anywhere, for example. No. Yeah. It's right now, as you know, as well as anyone, it's rumor central on who's talking to who. And I'm just waiting, Kevin, for the tweet that, the Milwaukee Bucks are fielding phone calls. There's a significant interest in this player. Yeah, no kidding. Like that general tweet's usually sent out there by somebody.
Talking to Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files here on the Payless Liquors Hotline, the Fan Morning Show. We look at the rest of the division, and specifically the Eastern Conference. Is there a true contender to any of the top 2 or 3 teams in the West right now?
I don't think when you compare to the West, no, not at all. New York could get hot, could be that team if they can, stay injury free. That's something that's really hampered them a lot in the last year or two. Boston, we know what kind of fight they could provide, but without Tatum, realistically, I don't see it. Detroit's in that first year, so I see them winning a series or two, but this being their learning year for a big run potentially next season. And then Cleveland continues to be a disappointment with Philadelphia to me. And so, no, I do not see a major contender out in the East. I think it's Oklahoma City and then the field.
Last thing, too, any thoughts on Caitlin Clark getting ready to make her appearance on Basketball Night in America on NBC coming up on Sunday?
I do, tons of them. But from her standpoint, I'm a little bit surprised, only because obviously she has pick of whatever she wants, right? Like which TV network would not want her. But I think she sees this position with NBC, a network that's just taking over some NBA and WNBA rights, and this gives her an opportunity for a low commitment, big opportunity, just like kind of Michael Jordan had, but in a different way. The only unique, challenging aspect, Jeff, I see is when you're out and doing a road show, as you know very well, that's very unique and can be challenging if you got all these people bothering you or yelling at you like she might here at Madison Square Garden. But to get into TV, this will be easy to talk on set, to make conversation, to talk ball. I think she'll do phenomenally well. She's better than some of these players that are 35 and 40, and she just turned 24 this week.
Yeah, I ask you this with my Fever hat on this morning. What are the chances at this point in time, as you see it, that we have a WNBA season that starts on time?
Yeah, we're getting, in my opinion, Jeff, I think we're getting to the point here where you have like a couple more weeks and then it is danger zone. I think we're less than 100 days out from the schedule that they have already put out here, and there seems to be no progress. And the WNBA has not gone back to the Players Association for more conversation. At some point, they just got to be locked in a room for an extended weekend and figure this out, or else there's going to be a lot of contingency plans. So right now, I would say you're getting in high risk mode of being delayed.
All right, buddy. As always, great info. Thanks for spending time with us, putting up with my nonsense, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Stay warm. See you guys.
There you go. Scott Agnes on the Payless Liquors hotline right there. Little gut punch when he was talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers there. I saw you visibly kind of recoil back there, Caleb.
I nodded. I nodded along. It has been a disappointing season. He's right.
I don't know if Caleb is messing around with the poll, but it's not exactly 60-40, but pretty close. So far, Caleb put this poll out. Would you trade Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mathurin, and that 2026 first-round pick for Giannis? I believe Scott said 100 times out of 100.
He did.
Would do it. Pacers fans not in that boat at all. Right now, 70% saying no. And again, I think some of this stems from Giannis is like, you're too close to the situation. Like, if Giannis played for the Trailblazers and did everything he's done with the Trailblazers, and like he had whatever beef with the Sacramento Kings, and their version of John Halliburton, I don't know if Pacers fans would be that demonstrative with the poll. But and we should mention, you are looking at potentially top 5, top 10 picks. I don't know if that's influenced that, because some people could look at it and say, hey, Mathurin might walk anyways. Siakam is the same age as Giannis, as Scott brought up. Are you really looking at just that dangling carrot of a top 5, top 10 pick?
By the way, I plugged it in Trade Machine because I know the NBA salaries can be wonky and the rules. It works.
Oh, it does.
It works.
Really?
So
Okay.
we're good there.
All right. We're cooking with a little bit of grease.
Look, people try to put those trades together all the time. You just came up with that off the top of your head, and it plugs right into the trade machine.
All credit to Matt. Listener Matt. He's the one that chimed in.
Maybe Matt's been playing around with that trade machine for a while, right? All right. Coming up in a few minutes, we'll also talk football with Zak Keefer, the Athletic. That'll be exciting, and see what he's up to, because he's always working on some amazing piece. We'll find out what he's up to these days, and we'll get some of your comments and feedback at 239-1070 in a moment. It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
103.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
We've been talking about basketball all morning long, and there was slight reference made to it by Scott Agnes a moment ago. Did you see that Jason Tatum is waiting to make a call on whether to return this season, as he's another guy trying to come back from an Achilles problem right now? And is it one of those things where it's more about how I'm feeling, or do I think that if I return late in the season after another couple of months, I can really help the Celtics? It's kind of interesting. I would imagine it's just about his health, right?
I'm glad the Pacers aren't in that boat. I'm glad we're not doing the dangling Tyrese Halliburton. Oh, well, maybe. What about 15 minutes off the bench and a playoff? Yeah.
He was injured about a month earlier than Tyrese.
Still, yeah. I'm good. Honestly, the Daniel Jones thing, I think will be interesting this fall. I will repeat myself a lot here over the next 6 or 7 months. To me, there's two different Daniel Jones questions. One, when is he cleared? Which is kind of the obvious one. Like, when can he play a football game with a red jersey off? Two, when can he move like Daniel Jones? Because he didn't move there for about a month like he can, and that's when the Colts' downside kind of started there. So, to me, those are two very different questions. And, again, we're talking Daniel Jones in kind of a 9-month radius. I mean, Halliburton's at what month right now? That was June last year. So what are we at? 7 months, 8 months, something like that.
I think he said 8 months on that. 31
weeks.
Yeah,
31 weeks is where we're at.
And he told a story that Caleb is referencing there, where Benedict Mathurin kind of blew by him in an attempt to guard Mathurin the other day in practice. So again, that's 8 months. And again, comparing basketball and football and torn Achilles, et cetera, I don't want to act like I'm wearing a doctor hat, but I guess I am. You're going to ask Daniel Jones to do something very similar, right? I mean, it's going to be about 9 months, 10 months maybe when Daniel Jones is asked to go play week 1. Is he going to be more stationary for the first month or so of the season? And how does that impact him if he is? Again, playing defense in the NBA and playing quarterback are not apples to apples, but the Colts won one game over the final 2 months of the season, and I would argue the one win was largely because of Daniel Jones' ability to make some plays with his legs in Atlanta, or I should say in Germany against Atlanta.
Yeah, and then you start looking at Tyrese Halliburton, and he put out a video about week 31, what he's doing right now, too, which is kind of interesting. But he still has, right now, probably to true NBA competition, another 8 months, right? Before he really starts ramping up for that, 8-9 months.
Right. I mean, again, you're looking at a much longer time scale for Tyrese than Daniel Jones.
And I'd imagine he'll be running up and down the floor. If he's doing what he's doing now at 31 weeks, by the time June, July gets around and guys are playing pickup games, NBA pickup games in the summer, I would imagine he'd start to do a little bit of that type of stuff, probably in a more controlled setting.
Jeff, tell me if you're familiar with any of these people. Elvis Smiley?
No.
Victor Perez? Laurie Cantor, Young Han Song, Scott Vincent, Ben and UC Agi, Bjorn Hellegren, Thomas Dietrich.
Caleb, do you have any idea?
When you said Bjorn, I was like, wait, Werner? Oh, wait, no, okay. No,
yeah, if I'm looking at the spelling, it's very similar. So
it's the only Bjorn I know. So
nothing on that end.
Are we talking about the potential Olympic ski jumpers here? What are we talking?
Have you heard of Brooks Koepka or Patrick Reed?
Have heard of those two. Are you talking about other members of the Live Tour?
Those names I mentioned are the Live additions for this year, and the last two names would be the Live subtractions from this year.
Wow.
You say that with a smugness on your face, too.
That's someone who's not as in the loop. Like, I'll watch the majors and stuff. That's pretty telling. That's kind of shocking how this thing is starting to crash. It feels like from the outside, right?
Elvis Smiley, you're not a big, fireballs.
Elvis Smiley,
you're a golf guy. I used to be. I've kind of not as much these days, but could you pick those guys out of a lineup?
I mean, what did I just name? 10 people?
Yeah.
I have heard of 5, and I am about as sick of a golf human as there is. So, wow. I mean, and again, Patrick Reed and Brooks Koepka for different ways. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Both of them are coming back to the PGA Tour with penalties. It's not like they're coming back and boom, they're at Torrey Pines today, and all of a sudden, they're free to make all the money they want to, and they're free to play in all all the events. It's not that Koepka will play today at Torrey Pines, but he is not, free reign to collect in all the, player equity and I think even the FedEx Cup bonuses that happen later in the season. So, yeah, it is it's a very cracking time for the Live Golf Tour, and I say that literally, like, crack. So, yeah, it's. I was blown away when I saw that list. And again, Patrick Reed's got a little villain to him. He's a little bit of like, if there ever is a thing as like a bad boy in golf or like someone that people don't like, it's Reed. And I think that's healthy for sports.
Count me among those.
Which is good. Like, that's healthy for sports. We don't need to have choir boys and girls galore. We want a little bit of the villain. That's what makes, I think, sports truly, just a little tension can go a long way in the entertainment world. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit longer for Patrick Reed, but boy, just got emotional yesterday when hearing that Live Golf had lost another.
You like LeBron last night in Cleveland, a little choked up?
Yeah, I just really feel for him. Seemed like such a really sympathetic figure.
How much did they offer Tiger? What was that number? 10 million?
I know, it was
10
ridiculous.
billion?
It was
probably like a 10% cut of the
some of
entire
those
tour.
numbers were just, and for those curious, and maybe no one is, and we'll obviously move on to Zak Keefer here coming up on the other side, but new PGA Tour Commissioner Brian Rolop, he comes over from the NFL. A lot of people thought he'd be next in line for Roger Goodell, and so I think that's where you're seeing some of this. I'm going to extend the olive branch, Jeff, but the olive branch is going to have thorns on it.
Come on back.
But
the water's fine.
But there are some penalties.
There's some big penalties for Koepka.
Right, and Patrick Reed a little bit too. And again, I think that to me is fair. You can come back, but you're not coming back just walk back into the fraternity and we'll let you tap the keg first. No. You're going to go drink some Everclear in your room before you come down to the party. Boy, I don't know if that analogy hit at all. I'm struggling today. That and the Red Garter.
700 to 800 million is what they say Tiger Woods was offered. I mean, is that not?
Can you imagine?
How many guys in the world could turn that down? By the way,
can you imagine that. That's like Rick Carlisle turning me down yesterday.
That you didn't say there was. It was not.
Can
a
we
no.
have that audio one more
it
time?
It was not a no.
This was Rick Carlisle.
It was
yesterday.
not a no.
9:30. I asked him if he would, potentially join a Notre Dame.
There it is. Okay.
Notre Dame Virginia trip next year up US 31.
Yeah, I may let the urge pass on that.
He was like
he was hemming and hawing there too.
That, trying to come up with the words.
He had one more follow up after that. Yeah, the urge pass kind of dampened me a little bit.
He was trying to let you down gently.
But then he had one more.
But I wouldn't say it's a definite no.
Well, say no more. You had me at first sight.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Amen. Send the Dumb and Dumber gift, Caleb Zuber. Send it my way. The door is open.
Zak Keefer here to brighten us all up and make us smarter folks about football. That's coming up next here at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This one takes me way back, Caleb. Foreigner.
Urgent.
This album was on repeat when I was a kid. Good stuff. I don't know if that makes me really, really old or what that makes. Kevin's just laughing at me over there. How you doing this morning?
You were pumped up there.
I was, man, and I'll keep a lot of that to myself probably right now too, because we got bigger, better things to do. Do we not, Caleb Zuver? We're momentarily going to be talking to our good friend Zak Keefer. He writes for The Athletic, covers the Colts, and really general stuff over there. You want to talk about a tremendously gifted writer. We are blessed not only to have had Zak Keefer in this market for a long, long time, but he is throwback complete. Like he'd have fit right in the old glory days of Sports Illustrated, Kevin.
Yeah, and I believe he will be off to the Winter Olympics coming up here.
Wow.
So you want to talk about what The Athletic thinks of him. So he's dropping his kids off. He's going to join us here in a few minutes. But yeah, and I also want to talk some Colts with Zach. You know, I think he always is a nice person to have. He's still in the NFL beat, and a nice person to have when you kind of look back on some of this Ballard tenure. But yeah, can you imagine covering the Olympics? We're in Italy, correct?
Mm-hmm. I've covered one Winter Olympics. That was the Salt Lake City Games in 2002.
Do you guys have a favorite Winter Olympic sport to watch? Because I have one. It's curling. I love watching curling. I think it's great. And I feel like that's what they always put on in the early morning. Like I remember, I think it was in 2014, the Sochi Olympics. I remember that they'd put that on. I'd be getting ready for school instead of Sports Center for those 2 weeks. It was curling I was watching.
I'll never forget being at a bachelor party in Vegas, and we landed, walked into the sports book, and it might have been, was Sochi 18?
I thought it was 14.
14. Yeah. That sounds right. Yep. And now you say that adds up to it was morning hockey, and it was USA versus Canada.
It's awesome.
And the sports book was just rocking. And I didn't grow up in a hockey climate. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. So, like, I don't follow the NHL. So, watching everyone react was like, damn, this is awesome. So, now I'm kind of like all in. Now I'm like, every Winter Olympics, I'm like, are the NHL guys playing? Okay, they are. All right. Let's go. And so, that's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for a USA-Canadian gold medal match.
I will tell you this. One of the single greatest sporting events I've ever attended was the 2002 gold medal hockey game between Canada and the United States. And what's special about hockey in the Olympics, it's in basketball, we have the best players in the world represent their countries, but the United States is generally overwhelmingly a favorite. Occasionally, Spain, Brazil, somebody like that pops up, one of the European countries. But for the most part, when you talk about the top 5 or 6 countries in the Olympics for hockey, you have all-star teams from the National Hockey League, and it's intense. Imagine all-star teams playing it like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
And we're starting to inch close to that in basketball. Frankly,
it's getting better.
It is. Yeah. I mean, look at the USA's run. I mean, remember that Serbia fourth quarter against them? Yeah. I mean, that was on the brink. The gold medal game against France.
Steph Curry saved our lives
pushover. There. And Canada with Shea. They weren't even in the semifinal round. So, maybe the 28 Olympics, when you get there in LA, it'll be closer to that. But yeah, I've grown to get behind that. And I love the movie Cool Runnings. I want to watch that tonight. So I'm going to go
Jamaican bobsled team
for Caleb Zuber on that one to answer his question about.
Have you seen Cool Runnings, Caleb? We got to get into that movie.
I don't think so.
That's good stuff. Classic.
Blasphemy.
Great stuff right there. But no, you bring up a great point. The Winter Olympics and on hockey, I think, is as good as it gets. That's fantastic stuff.
And the NHLers are playing.
Yeah. They take a break from the regular season, send them over there.
I see the WNBA is going to do a break this year for the World Cup, which I found
interesting.
And I assume that would be Caitlin Clark potentially with Team USA.
We are joined now by the aforementioned Zak Keefer of The Athletic on the Payless Liquors hotline. Zach, we were just talking about some of our favorite sports and games for the Winter Olympics. Says you get ready to go cover that for The Athletic. What are you most looking forward to, do you think?
I'm going to tell you what, watching these guys go down these hills, the skiers, the alpine skiers, at about 70, 75 miles an hour. It's going to be pretty surreal. It's as one of them told me, I kind of told him my backstory and how I covered the NFL, and he said, "Yeah, we suffer the same injuries. The difference is I'm the one doing it to myself. In football, someone's usually hitting me when I get hit."
Now, I thought you were covering the Olympics when I saw you from afar at the old Butler Hill with your girls the other day. Can we get that as a sport here, Zach?
I was going to say that it's pretty great living pretty close to the Butler Hill, and one of the perks is they gave me a little money to spend on gear, like because I'm in the mountains for 3 weeks, and so having that gear for this snowmageddon that we're in right now has been really nice. I wore the fancy boots
There you go.
to the Butler Bowl the other day.
Before we, shift gears to more of the daily of football and a little bit of Colts talk, I do want to nerd out over this assignment. I think it's awesome. I'm so thrilled that the Athletic is sending you over there. Well deserved. When do you leave? How long are you over there? What are you covering? Give us the whole lay of the land. I've never been close to an Olympics.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expecting this. I leave on Wednesday, and I will be there basically through the first or second day of the NFL Combine. So I'm gone the entire month of February. The games are in Milan, Cortina, but I'm actually in a small town in the northern part of Italy called Bormio, Livigno.
Mm-hmm.
I'm covering skiing and snowboarding. So the names you're going to recognize are Lindsey Vonn, Chloe Kim, Michaela Schifrin, Ryan Cochran-Siegel, maybe. The Indy native is Nick Gepper.
Sure.
And I had a story about him.
He's
that
done a
came out
bunch
the
of
other day.
Olympics, right?
Yeah, this is his fourth. He's setting records. And the crazy part is I asked him, I was like, dude, I got to ask you as like someone who's from Indiana, how in the world did you make the Winter Olympics? And he gave me an interesting response. He said, because I don't know if you guys know, like Perfect North down in Southern Indiana is not exactly like a hotbed of Olympic talent. And he said, well, here's the thing. If I grew up in Vail or Breckenridge, skiing at those fancy resorts, I would get maybe 1 or 2 runs an hour. At Perfect North, I could get a season pass for $50 and ski 150 runs per hour. So he just got 1 million reps over time, and his tricks are just jaw-dropping. It's pretty incredible what these guys can do.
It's crazy. You brought up Lindsey Vonn, who's just had to, in my mind, Zach, I've covered sports forever. This is one of the most amazing comeback stories I've ever seen, not only coming back from major injuries, but time off over the age of 40, and she's winning World Cup races. This is unbelievable to me. How likely is it that she could pull off a gold medal here?
Oh, she could definitely do it. I mean, it's not that dissimilar than what her ex-boyfriend did in the world of golf, right? She dated Tiger Woods for a minute, and that guy's knee was shredded, and he came back and won the Masters and all that. What she's doing is absurd. So we all watch on TV, and it's incredible, right? I went to an event in December to just kind of, it was a World Cup event, get the lay of the land. To see them in action is a completely different visual. You feel it in your entire body. Like to see the half pipe and how these snowboarders are 30 feet above the lip of the half pipe, and it's completely ice at the top. And so when they fall, I mean, they break something no matter what. And the coolest part for me has been like the Super G, the Alpine, the downhill stuff where they're literally rocket launching themselves down the side of a mountain, and they're wearing 1/4 of an inch of spandex to protect them. One slip. And that's the other thing is every single skier I've ever talked to is like, yeah, I blew out my ACL, I blew out my meniscus, my PCL, my MCL. Like they've all been hurt because it's such a dangerous sport, and they're sort of towing this line, which of course makes Lindsey Vonn's comeback all the more remarkable. And the way she's skiing right now, she could absolutely contend.
Yeah, I cannot wait to read your work. I think that'll meet the moment there at an Olympics coming up in a few weeks. Zak Keefer, that's the voice you hear, of course, on the Payless Liquors hotline. All right, let's shift gears a little bit more Colts NFL related. It's our first convo with you since the season ended here in Indianapolis. Just your overall thoughts on, the 2025 and the complexities of the Colts season, and then the run-it-back approach they're taking here into 2026.
Yeah, I can't say I was surprised based on kind of sort of the conversations I had late in the season. It didn't seem like Carly was ready to make a move. That's obviously what happened. They're reining it back, status quo. If I'm a Colts fan, I'm probably a little bit encouraged by the fact that there were 10 openings this year, And if you did make a move at head coach, I'm not sure you're getting your first or second or third choice. Now, maybe that's just glass half full talk, but I don't think there's many play callers out there on the market if you want to go offense that are better than Shane Steichen. I think he would have gotten a head coaching job in about 15 minutes, and that's from people I've talked to around the league. But the other thing is, I didn't think the press conference was a great moment for this franchise. If I'm a Colts fan, I did not walk away from that especially encouraged. It felt very much to me that Chris Ballard was weighed on 8 games of work as opposed to 9 years, right? Those first 8 games, we were really good. That's good enough. Let's run it back. As opposed to the collapse at the end, which he was responsible for just as much as the first 8 games in the body of work. So I totally hear the fans' frustration on that point. The logic did not make sense to me, and I did not think it was relayed very well. It just was not a very convincing argument, in my opinion, of why they made the decision they made and why it's going to point in any direction other than the direction they've been the last couple of years, which just seems to be floating along and stuck in mediocrity.
Zach, obviously big moves in the offseason last year with Daniel Jones and Bynum and Cam Ward, and then in the middle of the season with Sauce Gardner. How aggressive can or should the Colts be on defense in free agency this offseason?
Well, it sounds like Daniel Jones is fait accompli, right? It sounds like he's coming back almost as if he's not a free agent who can test the market. Now, I think that's what Daniel wants. I think that's what Shane wants. Shane really likes him, and so they'll bring him back, and maybe the injury gives you a little bit of leeway. I'm just throwing out a number, 3 for 100, maybe a little bit more. It depends on what happens. Is Buckner back? Like, Buckner's your best pass rusher, and that's a problem. That's a problem because, no offense to Buckner, but he's an interior defensive lineman, and they haven't addressed the edges. When I did that story with my colleague Jordan Rodriguez at the end of the season, I mean, like, if you look up their highest pass sack guys of the last, let's say the whole Chris Ballard era, all of them have been brought from other rosters. None of them are homegrown talents. Ebicom, Justin Houston back in 2019, Danico Autry. Like, that's a problem. They have been able to grow those edge rushers, and that's a big Achilles heel for this team. We'll see what happens in the secondary. They got some guys coming back from injury. But again, it just feels like every year that room gets shredded. So, and I'm very curious to see what they do at linebacker. Is Zaire Franklin back? Because it doesn't sound like anything is sure on that defense right now.
Zak Keefer with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I could not agree more with him on the kind of that end of the season postmortem and his takeaways from that. This is kind of random, Zach, but you were on the beat, and I'm going way back, so I apologize. But 2018, when they hired Josh McDaniels, I had forgotten that a part of that first head coach interview cycle was Mike Vrabel. Some of the names that I was thinking about the other day,
yes, it was.
And again, feel free to add anything on it because I don't remember it all. But I remember like Matt Nagy's name being thrown around. I remember Matt Rule, who was then the Baylor head coach, getting an interview. Obviously, Josh McDaniels is who was initially hired there. But at the time, that was Vrabel with just 1 year as Texans defensive coordinator. They weren't very good, Houston, defensively. And then ironically, Vrabel ended up getting hired that cycle. Tennessee won a road playoff game at Kansas City. They still fired Mike Mularkey and hired Vrabel after that. But do you recall anything from that coaching search? I know once the McDaniels things happen, we tend to only remember that aspect to it.
Oh, yeah. Chris really wanted Josh McDaniels. I don't know if the word save is the right word, but he wanted to resurrect Josh McDaniels' head coaching viability. Like, he really wanted that offensive mind. And remember where McDaniels was, right? He was piloting one of the best offenses in football with Tom Brady, and they were competing for championships every year. The interesting thing here, and you know this, KB, is the Vrabel aspect. Because as the years went on, Jim Irsay was obsessed with Mike Vrabel. Like, I don't use that word lightly, but he got so mad. He got visibly upset in conversations I had with him, and then in conversations he had with me and other reporters, that the Titans would come in and win the AFC South every couple of years with less talent than the Colts had. It drove him insane. And there was an 0-3 start one year where the Titans had won the third game to beat the Colts. The Colts were 0-3, and he called Frank Reich and every scout and every coach in the city, like they were in town, into the building so he could rip them a new one.
I forgot about
that. I mean, he absolutely just lit into them, and he loved the way Vrabel's teams played with toughness. It's kind of what he wanted out of the Chuck Pagano era, right? So they don't win more than one championship with Peyton. They want to go defense. They want to mimic what the Steelers and the Ravens did for all those years. The teams that beat the Colts in the playoffs that drove him nuts. So he wanted that with the Chuck Pagano era. They pivot back to offense, Josh McDaniels, which leads to Frank Reich. But Jim Irsay was right about Mike Vrabel. Like, he is a heck of a head coach. You're seeing it right now. And it used to really drive him nuts that Vrabel's teams would win the AFC South with less talent, he thought, than the Indianapolis Colts.
Man, I'm looking on a map here, Zach. You weren't kidding. Milan is not very close to Cortina at all. It's like a 2-hour drive.
Yeah, I'm hopping on a plane I'm hopping on a train that's like a 3-hour ride. I'm in this like little small ski town that's like basically the Swiss Alps. So I'm basically in the Swiss Alps for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, well.
Unbelievable.
I feel for you, Zach.
Is your wife coming over at all?
She's going to come for the first couple of days. The whole can I cover the Olympics and be gone for 3 weeks was, probably better to get her a couple of days of her own before she's got a solo parent for quite a while.
Sure.
Man.
Dude, have a blast, man. Safe travels. And I can't wait to hell, with a time change, maybe we might dial you up if it works at all.
Yep.
Hey, I'll be out on the slopes every day.
One more quick thing. Any thoughts on the whole Pro Football Hall of Fame brouhaha with Bill Belichick and how people are reacting across the league to that?
Yeah, I have some thoughts because the process is really unnecessarily complex. Like, I know people are mad that Belichick isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think that's worth our time. He's a Hall of Famer. Everybody knows that he should have gotten in. You guys don't need to waste your airwaves on that. I think the reality is, why are these voters, these 50 voters, choosing between, Ken Anderson and Bill Polian and a coach, right? Like, or Bill Belichick, excuse me. Like, it just doesn't make sense that they're having to equate players' careers with these legendary coaching careers. Like, I feel like they should be separate categories. And the way they've rearranged and redone the process has just added this confusion. And the other thing is, I think a lot of voters didn't vote for Belichick because they just assumed he was going to get in. And then all of a sudden you had 11 voters at least who didn't vote for Belichick, and he doesn't get in, which is just a terrible look for the Hall of Fame. I think it's a terrible look for the voters as well. I just think this is more a reflection of a very, very flawed process than anything it has to do with Belichick's credentials.
Yeah. Hey, have fun. As Kevin said, travel safe, buddy, and we look forward to hearing and reading your stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Zak Keefer, The Athletic, joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Speed skating, Caleb. I love speed skating, too. I think that's so cool. They get down there, they kind of get in that three-point stance, and, man, they're hugging those inside lines. And I feel like there's a lot of tactical, nature to it of, like, let's call it a 10-lap race, and I'm going to kind of, be more the hunter than the hunted. And I love that. I can remember the American dude, Apollo Anton Ono, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a kind of a earlier Winter Olympic memory.
I go back a little bit farther. One of my first jobs in this business, actually my first full-time job out of college, was in Billings, Montana, and we covered the Speed Skating World Cup over in Butte. At the same time, I don't know if you remember these names. You might be a little too young, Caleb, but Dan Jansen,
sure,
Bonnie Blair, people like that.
Iconic names, yeah.
And let me tell you, when it's one of those things like Zach was talking about skiing, when you see it up close and see the actual speed that these folks travel down open ice on those skates, it's like, it's in some ways, clearly it's not like the Indy 500 where it's just they're from one end to the other like in no time, but it's fast. And you're like, whoa.
I got to say this for Zach. I know he said he's going to be in the Swiss Alps. He's getting a good primer out here in Indy with this snowstorm. So I think this is a good warm up.
I don't think it'd be quite as cold out there, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
We go to the top of Crown Hill to experience the highest point here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I believe Rakestraw said to me on the drive up 31. Oh, here we go, the highest point in Kokomo. We're about ready to cross right now.
That's why I like going to Brown, the state park down in Brown County, because there's actually terrain and hills out there, man. I love that.
Just the cold and the snow aspect. I would say he's getting maybe a good warm up.
All right, let's do a quick check down as we continue to roll through the show here.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here. The Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships with NCAA tournament bids on the line. March 8th through 10th. Tickets and more at horizonleague.com/Indy.
Indiana Pacers 113-110 winners at the Fieldhouse last night over the Chicago Bulls, a team they seem to have figured out, Kevin Bowen.
3 of their 12 wins this year, right? So 3-0 against the Bulls. Last night you just made all the plays in the fourth quarter. And we haven't said that too often this year. Erased a 14-point deficit. Nembhard, big shot. Siakam has several big plays. Aaron Nesmith probably the top of that. Both ends of the floor, huge plays. Jay Huff hit a top of the key 3. And Benedict Mathurin had a really key flurry there in the third quarter. You know, that could have gone either way there. He got the start in the second half, had a big little stretch there to keep the Pacers within striking distance. So, yes, a win here as they are back at home, and they'll be at home for 3 more. Saturday, Hawks next game inside of Gainbridge Field.
I'm going to throw 2 numbers out at you that jump out at me when I was looking at the box score in the postgame last night. Only 6 turnovers, and Kevin, they were 15 of 36 from three-point range, which is not terrible. That's pretty good.
No. And we will give you an update on our Giannis trade scenario poll. Pacers fans, do you want it? We'll give that to you here on the other side.
All right, as you mentioned, Pacers at home again against the Atlanta Hawks tomorrow night, Saturday night, not tomorrow night, Saturday night. That one will start at 7 o'clock over there. Last night, college basketball, Butler had a problem with St. John's from the very opening tip, just never really got it going. They lose by 22 points, and it brings it into their little winning streak they had going on there.
Honestly, and not that I work out much, but whenever I watch St. John's play, I think to myself, I don't need to work out because I'm sweating, imagining bringing up the ball against that St. John's pressure there. Shockingly, Butler only had 6 turnovers, yet still lost by 22. So St. John's shot the hell out of it. Butler tried a little 1-3-1 action, and St. John's was able to kind of carve that up there. So, again, not a lot of quad one opportunities left. Last night was one of them. St. John's looked like that preseason top 10 team. That's really how they played here in January. Rick Pitino's bunch looks like that. So Butler needs to continue to hold serve. They'll get Georgetown at home on Saturday, and then they're going to have to steal one. UConn at Nova, win a game or 2 back in Madison Square Garden, Big East tournament time. They're going to have to do a little bit more if they're going to want to continue to build a resume.
And you can see them for yourselves. Saturday, they will be at Hinkle Fieldhouse. They'll be taking on Georgetown. IU on Saturday night will be out on the West Coast, taking on UCLA. Purdue travels to Maryland for a Sunday afternoon game. And your Notre Dame Fighting Irish try to bounce back from that heartbreaking, crushing, tough loss in double overtime to Virginia the other night.
I don't sense a lot of sympathy in how you describe that.
I said it was heartbreaking and tough. Did I not, Kevin?
I like Notre Dame's chances in that game, by the way. Syracuse is reeling. Not great.
Reeling.
It's not your father's Syracuse basketball team,
That
is
is true. That is true.
All right. Another head coaching hire yesterday. Todd Monken goes to the Cleveland Browns. And yes, Patrick Reed is leaving the Live Golf Tour to return to the PGA Tour, not eligible to compete, I believe, till August, right?
Yeah, he's going to try. One thing I do appreciate about Reed, he's going to go play on the European Tour and try to earn more status. So, again, that's something I do appreciate about, even the Koepka coming back or the Patrick Reed. It's not like, hey, you're just being handed, all these events per se. Brooks obviously has won a lot of majors. Patrick Reed's a past champion. So they do get some status, but to earn more, in Patrick Reed's case, he's going to have to go earn it on the European Tour. So I do appreciate that aspect to it.
All right. Anything else you want to throw in before we head to break here?
I mentioned it, throughout the show. So Cotton Enrip had this of Bud Wright, the all-time winningest coach in high school football here in the state of Indiana. Southwood. He's coaching at the age of 85.
And we don't doubt him, do we?
Football coach, 464 career wins for him. He was an assistant at North Miami. I believe that's the alma mater of the great Ruth Riley there last season. So there you go, Larry Bud, right? Didn't look like a great night for mid-majors in the state. A lot of them were playing. IU Indy, Evansville, Valpo, Fort Wayne, I think all of them suffered setbacks. Again, the story of the year from a mid-major standpoint, Miami, Ohio. We'll talk with Rakestraw about it again tomorrow. They are undefeated on the year. Not just Pete Suter, Justin Kirby from Fishers as well. Travis Steele and that staff has a ton of Indiana flavor on it. Of course, Miami, Ohio, geographically, is about as close as you're going to get here to the state of Indiana. And shout out as well to Josh Schertz, the former Indiana State coach. I don't know if St. Louis qualifies as a mid-major, but they have just one loss in the season. They are also ranked. So don't know how much Indiana flavor we'll get in the bracket per se, but a couple of those storylines to watch here as we get closer to March.
You mentioned Miami of Ohio. It's not terribly far from Dayton, but have you been to Oxford, Ohio, Caleb, in your Ohio travels?
I actually have lots of times.
My stepfather was a graduate, got a graduate degree at the Miami of Ohio.
It's a good place, despite them being rivals with my alma mater. Miami, Ohio's a good place.
All right, that's what's happening in the world of sports. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about some college basketball in a moment. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Little Caleb Zuver flavor right there. The 9 o'clock hour here on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. He's in for the, as I mentioned, is there a better way to describe it, Kevin, than the ever-vacationing Mark Dykton?
You're the one that signs off on the PTO.
He's been here for a long time. He takes like a day or two at the end of a week here and there all the time. I don't blame his strategy necessarily, but he will be back on Monday. We are happy to have Caleb Zuber in today doing our thing. And Caleb, since you are in for Mark Dykton today, I assigned you last night the task of coming up with some questions for I Gotta Know. And so let's hit it.
He's got questions.
How about a game?
They've got answers.
Hey, I'm more of a cornhole man myself.
Sports, music, movies. What? High fashion.
That Hansel's so hot right now.
And everything in between.
You ever seen a foot with 4 toes?
It's time to get a glimpse into the mind of Mark Dykton.
Stop it, you're scaring me.
It's time for I Gotta Know.
Okay, you two punks, I want a good, clean fight. Let's get it on.
All right, let's do this. It is not Mark Dykton, it's Caleb Zuver. I got 4 questions here. I was burning the midnight oil last night when you sent me that text, Jeff. First one, we'll start with some sports stuff here. I got to know, and we kind of maybe covered this in the show today, but I got to know, will the Pacers make a trade within the next week when the deadline hits?
Still looking for a center, Kevin Bowen. Are there centers to be had out there, and are any of them just a major upgrade over what the Pacers have been using all season long?
Well, I think if you want a trade, you should cheer for Giannis to be moved. Honestly, I think, to quote, when I listen to the IndyCar races, sometimes you hear the announcers say, cautions breed cautions. I think trades breed trades. So I think Giannis domino would lead to some action. I'll say yes, Caleb. I will say we will see a trade here in the next 7 days.
Pacers have got to find a center somewhere. If not for the rest of this season, they certainly need to find one by the time Tyrese Halliburton gets back next year. I'd imagine they get a little bit of help in the front court when Obi Toppin comes back, whenever that's going to be. But he's not obviously a true center. They need a center, and unless they're just going to hang out and try to draft bigger guys or go after somebody in the offseason, I think they have to take all phone calls at this point in time. I just don't know who's out there that you say to yourself, man, I'm really, really glad we got that right now. I don't know, Jordan Poole, a guy like that.
Take a flyer.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't float your boat, does it?
Yeah.
No thanks. But that's what's out there. That's my point.
Yeah, I think I could see them getting involved in a 3-team or 4-team trade just as maybe a salary filler, salary dumper, whatever the case may be. Maybe trading some second-round picks. I think that's maybe more of what we're going to see. By the way, on the poll, I know I said 60-40.
Look at you.
Hey, we are right there with 59.3%
wow.
no, 40.7% yes, 86 votes in on that.
We may start calling you the Oracle.
There are some Pacers fans clearly that are putting their Giannis differences to the side.
Yeah.
With that. And again, that trade, just to update everybody, we threw it out there earlier. Pascal Siakam, Benedict Mather, and a first-round pick next year for Giannis. Listener Matt tossed that our way, so Caleb put it out on a poll. Fan Morning Show on Twitter.
Second one, I got to know if Purdue will be a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. I have the standings here, and if you look at it, Michigan State, Nebraska all at 9-1. Illinois at 8-1, Purdue at 7-3. Right now, they wouldn't get the double bye.
It's kind of wild. Like you could make a case they have a better chance for a top 4 seed in the big tournament than they do in the Big Ten, just because their non-conference was so, promising with, winning at Alabama, Texas Tech on a neutral floor. They have some nice wins there. I will say they claw their way back. They've already done their Western trip. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Michigan State and Michigan are both at home this year. I think that's part of their schedule. So I know there are still some other, very notable games. I want to say they go to Illinois maybe, but I will say they will be a top 4 seed.
Right now, CBS Bracketology has them as a 3 seed. I can't imagine they don't get anything but better from here on out the rest of the season.
Well, again, Caleb's asking Big Ten, not NCAA.
No, Big Ten. I get that. Big Ten, yeah, I think you're probably right. 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to watch because could this be the year for the Big Ten?
No, boy.
I mean, it's the question we ask every single year, but geez, man, those are some really good teams.
Michigan
at the top.
looks really good.
Yes.
Arizona looked tremendous against BYU
shout
the
out
other night.
to Nebraska the other night on the road without rink masks, and they nearly win the game. So,
Absolutely.
Obviously winning 6 in a row in March and April of the Big Ten. I mean, hell, we haven't seen that many Big Ten teams even in the Final Four, really, here in recent years. So, yeah, that is a really great question. It'll be one of those weird things we get to the tournament. It's like, boy, how many top 3 seeds will be out of the Big Ten? Top 4 seeds will be out of the Big Ten.
Well, I bring up Arizona because they are clearly playing at a different level right now. They are 21-0, but I think Michigan could hang with them. That was my point.
Don't sleep
there.
on UConn because
Absolutely.
I know they lost Arizona, but they didn't have Terrence Reed for that matchup. They didn't have Braylon Mullins for that matchup.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for UConn St. John's. I believe it's next week. St. John's starting to play good ball, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
All right, I am going to say that Purdue will claw their way back in as well. Next one, I know Jeff in the past has pointed out I am a single man, and he has made that known to the wide audience.
Well, I was trying to help you out with that, Caleb.
Maybe you can help me here. This Valentine's Day, it won't be an issue, but it is coming up, and I got to know the perfect way to spend Valentine's Day.
There are different seasons in life sometimes. And you learn to
We got our love doctor
properly
right here.
He's cared for everybody.
Dr. Jeff Rickard
You
here. our
learn
love
to
doctor.
properly appreciate the person you have been with. My wife and I have been together for about 24 years coming up this summer. We've been married for a little over 21. And I will say it, I will admit, I'm not always perfect at this, and I'm not probably the best gift giver, although I have tried at times. But my wife's birthday is a week before Valentine's Day, and in the past, I have wanted to have what I call the 8 days of Christine and do something each day. I have probably not kept up with that as well as I need to, but I try to. Her big thing is she's one of those people who does don't spend money, let's save it so we can go travel someplace is her big thing. But I'll try to come up with something pretty cool. What about you, Kevin?
You got a little hour-long coaching session after the show here, Caleb. Slide into Jeff Rickard's office and all of a sudden be wine and dine on the romance and the love. 8 days of Christine sounds like a terrific idea. In all seriousness, I am very lucky that my wedding anniversary is February 16th and Valentine's Day is, pretty much there. So, unfortunately, we did not have this weather. We actually had 50-degree weather. Took pictures over at Butler. It was very, very fortunate there. So, yeah, Caleb, I married a great woman who is very much like hey, let's just combine it with the anniversary. Let's do something, along those lines. So
you have kind of a similar thing going on in terms of timing
now,
with dates.
Caleb, if you want to sneak it in, I believe we got a couple days left here at Devoured Indy. And shout out to our local businesses because, unfortunately, when we get weather like this, they lose multiple days of, potentially us, venturing out there. So definitely check out local businesses. Devour Indy. There's some great menus there. If I must say so, we've done it before where, honestly, we just kind of share one of the Devour menus and then, maybe get one extra item there. So I think we honestly might do that here. Coming up this week, and I believe it ends on the 1st.
Yeah,
so.
that's a great idea. And here's the biggest thing. Learn her love language and feed it.
Absolutely. Okay.
That's the key.
I literally just saw Caleb take out his notebook.
I did write some stuff down there.
I mean, look at that. Now, can I toss one your guys' way?
Yeah.
So we're about ready to hit a break. I think I told you yesterday, car didn't start. Had to take the other car in. So jump it yesterday afternoon, drove it around for about 5 minutes. Didn't want to be, I just didn't have time to be driving around for 10 or 15 minutes. I go out there this morning, 6 a.m., fire it up, nothing. So I'm jumping it this morning. Man. Is that dangerous? Now, I drove it about 20 minutes into work, so I drove it for longer this morning once it was jumped. I'm nervous. I'm thinking about going out there during the break to start it. I want to know, is it going to start or not? Because if not, screw your love doctor meeting. Boys, I'm going to need some help. I got the cables in the back seat right now. So should I be worried about jumping my car potentially for a third time? And 18 hours.
I would say you've got a 60-40 chance it'll start. We're up to 3 degrees now, Kevin. 3 degrees outside.
And climbing.
The sun was not out at 6 a.m. this morning.
Dude, like last night I was actually driving and for some reason I got stuck. One of the roads wasn't plowed, but I got out after about 30 seconds. And then I looked down, my engine light, my tire pressure, my steering wheel light all came on at the same time. And I was like, what is happening here? And I think it was just the sensors were messed up. So we're all good now. But the cold and the snow does some weird stuff to your car, man. You just never know.
So do you think the battery's shot?
I think the battery's shot.
I don't know if they make them this way, but in the older days, you used to be able to like plug your car into like it would be an extension cord that would run up to your house. And I know that when I was young, my first job I mentioned I was in Montana, it would get really cold there. And you'd see people with like electric cords running from their car to the house. And I don't even know if they make those extensions for cars anymore or not. They probably don't, but that's I'm sure there are people over the age of 50 that know what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, people are chiming in. Sounds like your battery's dead. Take it in.
We should get a poll going on that.
Yeah. I think it's
everybody who's participated.
So should I brace
on the other
myself?
poll.
Should I attempt to start it now, or should I just wait?
Hey, you got 5 minutes.
Okay.
So you can do that. You got time.
All right.
And we can come back with an answer.
We'll watch from the windows, Caleb.
I like this idea.
We'll
this
watch
is fun.
from the windows as he races out there, tries to start the car, and races back in.
Watch for ice. Don't slip. Don't fall.
All right, we'll have an answer to that for you, maybe, if Kevin decides to go down that route when we continue next. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on Sports Radio 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
All is right in the world of Kevin Bowen.
Bleep and go. The car has started. I called Caleb Zuber. I said, I need some music coming back, baby.
Now, see, I was worried. I didn't know you were calling Caleb. I was watching in our studio. He was in the next studio, and we're both looking out the window. You get out of the car, and the first thing you do is go to your phone. And my thought was, uh-oh,
That's
he's
what
calling
I thought
AAA.
too. Yeah.
I thought we were going AAA there
Boys,
for a second, man.
I don't know. Maybe seeing the sunlight, maybe driving it around for 20 minutes this morning. I don't know. One to the car gods. I guess this makes up for Notre Dame losing the other night.
That's beautiful. There are a lot of people who've checked in and said
so
that,
many people helping out here.
Yeah. And a lot of people were talking about the extension cord thing I was mentioning a moment ago. Some said it was for diesel engines, which I get. But I had one on my Accord that was installed back then, and then I couldn't remember what it was called. Aaron from Minnesota, though, reminded me. Engine block heaters.
Yeah, people are chiming in about that a lot.
Engine block heaters. Maybe if this keeps up, we all may have to go get engine block heaters around
So
here.
people are still telling me I should go to, insert your whatever AutoZone here or something to check the old battery.
Yeah, a lot of better get a battery, man. But it started.
Am I playing with fire right now on that?
I don't know. I just want you to feel better for tomorrow, right? Yeah, Fish from Stoop said, tell Jeff he's thinking of engine block heaters, which is mainly used for diesel vehicles to keep the fuel from turning into jello in the cold. Doesn't help batteries. And yes, Kevin, you should get a new battery, especially if yours is 5 years old or older. For some reason, I just remember everybody was plugging those in to make sure that the battery started. But maybe, like I said, I was young and didn't know what was going on. So,
and look, in all seriousness, with people right now, obviously, first off, you think about homeless people, but like everybody that's working outside and like
tremendous
people that it's their jobs to be outdoors, or again, we park one car outside based off where we live. A lot of people are parking multiple cars outside. I mean, it's just yeah. This is probably, not to, get off my lawn. This is probably the worst weather I can remember us having in a long, long time. The snow and the cold combo. It's just, it's wild. And, I was just talking with somebody in the break room a few minutes ago. It was weird when Rakestar and I drove up 31 the other night. That was like a breeze. We don't usually have this, where the northern part of the state has got it a lot less than the southern part of the state.
Yeah.
I guess if all the IU fans are going to get this 10 to 14 day euphoria, Purdue fans say, well, at least make our weather a little better.
Well, I'm checking my weather app, and it does say Indianapolis. I double checked this time. I didn't have it on another city like I did the last time. But it's not getting nice anytime soon, Kevin. Here's the 10-day forecast. You ready for this?
Well, it's got to get a little warmer, right?
-2 today, -2 tomorrow.
Now, these are lows, correct?
Those are the lows. -4. I'm thinking about your battery right now.
Sure.
Overnight, okay? 0 for a low on Sunday, 11 on Monday, Tuesday 16, Wednesday 19.
Well, there we go. We'll be in shorts and T-shirts.
But I'm just thinking of your overnight lows for your battery right there, man.
I think I might go with I'll park it in the garage tonight, put it in reverse, so then the front, the front of the car is facing out. So then if I need to jump it, it'll be readily available to jump it.
That'll save you a couple minutes there.
Yeah.
There you
It's
go.
so funny. I'm the least handsy person in the entire world.
I might make a run with you there, buddy.
And I was able to get a jump last night, and you would have thought I climbed Everest with Maddie's reaction. I was like, okay, well,
when you buy something from the store that you have to put together, whether it's a bookcase or something like that, my wife is always like, "No, let me do that." I wish I could tell you a better story, but I'm not good at that.
Well,
stuff.
no, I think the thing for me is always my dad. When he gets something like that, he tosses away the directions. Like, I'll just figure it out myself. That's who my dad is, and I have learned, no, you need to look at the directions on how to put something together. You're gonna miss a step.
And I don't know what happened, because my dad, he was an Eagle Scout. He could fix anything. My dad could fix anything. If something broke, he just fixed it. And I didn't get that gene. I don't know what happened there. Matthew writes in at 239-1070 this morning. Good morning, Mr. Bowen. I suggest you look at a battery conditioner for the future. It's not that expensive, and it can keep you from facing further issues with your car. Longtime texter, first-time listener, Matthew in Beech Grove.
Yeah, a lot of people, actually Mark Dykton, who's listening, I guess right now, he chimed in, go to AutoZone, get a free battery test, and you'll know if it needs to be replaced. So, yeah, I think I appreciate everybody chiming in here.
All right, gotta love that. That's mostly what people are checking in with today, because I think a lot of people have dealt with or are dealing with the same thing. And Kevin, you've been in Indiana for your entire life. I've only been here for the last 13 years or so. I don't remember it being this cold for this long since I moved here.
That's what I'm going to remember this show, though, for guys, is the Giannis trade talk and how Kevin's going to get his car started.
And Rosie asking what the red garter was.
Yeah, that too.
What was the answer?
Why are they talking about mom and the red garter when Jeff said, no, call Maddie.
Well, now you're just starting to embellish.
Too.
Now you're starting to embellish.
I believe you did say Maddie's online, too, and that sparked Rosie saying, why are they talking about mommy and the red garter?
Oh, so she put the two together. I got you. There you go. But no, the Pacers coming off a big win last night. And really the biggest question for the Pacers immediately right now, it's fun to watch. It was a fun game to watch, fun fourth quarter to watch last night. Enjoyed all that. But are there legitimate moves to be made that will help this team in its long-term future as we approach the deadline?
I think this is a thought organizationally. I don't think it necessarily should be. And I get it. There are some people that are all about, no, win every single season. You try to maximize your wins. If you want to be eternal optimist, again, the Pacers are still, 10 out of a play-in spot with 40 games to go, 30 games to go, something like that. This is the healthiest they've been all season. Jarris Walker played last night. He was questionable. Outside of Obi Toppin, this is the core we thought. Last night they ended the game without Mathurin and Walker on the floor, and they still had Neesmith and Nembhard and Siakam, and it was Furphy and Huff with those other three there. So, again, I don't think that should be a discussion topic organizationally. I think you have to think big picture. You have to live in reality. You realize you're probably not going to rattle off, 8 of 10. You're going to have to do that about 3 different times the rest of the season in order to even make the play in. But, yeah, thank you to Corey here. Red Garter, great pizza buffet on Sundays after Colts home games. He chimes in.
There we go.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Not experienced. Not Google reviewed.
Everybody's heard. Verlin from Greenfield gets the last word today. He says, asking AutoZone if you need a new battery is like asking McDonald's if you need a Big Mac. With that, we will send you off into the day. Stay warm. Keep those batteries going. Jake at noon, and I believe JMV is back at 3 today. Enjoy your broadcast day.